Corey, I have a message for you on Zoom.
Mga kababayan, ang pambansang awit ng Pilipinas. Kayang mag-ibig, telas ng sinakanan, alam ng puso, sa titik mo'y buhay. Lupang hinirang, kuya ka ng magiting, sa manlulupin, di ka pasisigil, sa nagatak tutok sa simoy at sa langit mong pagaw, ay hinatang tulad, awit sa pagkayang minamahal. Ang isang ng matawad mo'y tagumpay na nag-iindig, ang bituin at araw niya kailan pang ay di magdidinig. Luman ang araw ng walhagit pagsinta, buhay langit sa piling mo. Ang inigaya na pagkay mga api, at mamatay ng dahil sa'yo.
Okay, so good morning, everyone. I am Charisse a BA Philippine Arts student from the University of the Philippines, Manila.
And I'm Gabriel Gatan, also a BA Philippine Arts student from the University of the Philippines, Manila. And we would like to welcome all of you to the opening program for this year's International Flores de Mayo Festival and Conference 2022.
Yes, but before anything, for this year's celebration, we want to give a special thank you to our event partners. So the University of the Philippines, Manila, the Philippine Botanical Artists Society, and the National Commission for Culture and the Arts. Thank you so much to our partners for your continued support. This annual event is organized by the Faura Project Incorporated, an organization formed by alumni, faculty, current students, and friends of the University of the Philippines, Manila. We are bound by a common cause, which is to revive, revitalize, and sustain the rich cultural and historical heritage of Ermita, Manila, particularly Faura Street and its environs.
We officially begin today at the first day of our long-awaited festival. And of course, we at the Faura Project prepared a very special lineup of exciting activities for all of you this week.
Yes, so for the house rules, we would just like to request all the participants here today to mute their microphones unless asked otherwise. But don't worry, because there will be a Q&A portion later. So if you have any questions, you can just list them down first and ask them later during the Q&A portions.
And before we start, I would just like to have a, vibe check with everyone here in the Zoom room because it's quite early in the morning, and I hope everybody is still having a good morning, because I am having a good morning for today. And how are you feeling? Send one word to the Zoom chat to describe how you're feeling right now. So send one word, just any word, just that describes how you're feeling right now. So yeah, let's hear how everyone is doing.
I can see here, they're privately messaging me, Gab. I can see you're happy, excited. Yes, we feel the same way. We're very happy. Yes. We're very excited to be starting this week-long festival with all of you.
Yes, I love the positivity in everyone right now. I can feel the happy energy that's vibing and blooming with everyone right now.
Yes. Okay,
right.
So now to give our welcome address is the convener and the curator of our Flores de Mayo festivals, and of course, the brainchild behind the Faura Project. Let's hear it from Dr. Honey Libertine Achanzar-Labor.
good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending on what part of the globe you are in. In behalf of the members of the Faura project, welcome to the 2022 International Flores de Mayo Festival and Conference. So the Flores de Mayo is one of the several Marian events held in the Philippines on the month of May. It has a distinction, though, of being conducted the longest, as it practically lasts for the entire month. Its practice has been steadily maintained throughout the centuries, as this was set in a month which used to mark the beginning of the summer break in the Philippine academic calendar. However, in 2014, a move to change the start of the academic year to August was initiated, wherein the University of the Philippines took the lead, followed by Ateneo de Manila, De La Salle, and UST. And the rest is history. Since the regular classes now take place in the month of May, challenges in the conduct of festivals, festivities, fiestas and related practices have been observed, particularly in the month-long events of the Flores de Mayo. So to contribute to the conservation of this important and tangible cultural heritage of the Flores de Mayo, as well as to advocate the importance of endemic and native flowers in the month of May, the Faura project has been convening week-long Flores de Mayo festivals and conferences since 2018. It has already been a tradition for us to celebrate this annually, but we consider this year's festival an important milestone, since participants from different parts of the globe are joining us to also take pride in their country's floral heritage. So the two-day conference is followed by a painting exhibit celebrating native flora in the time of pandemic, which will finally once again be conducted on site. So we are all invited to join the exhibit opening this Wednesday, as well as the virtual painting workshops on Thursday, which you can access free of charge via Zoom upon registration. So also on Thursday, we shall make accessible to the public through the Faura Project's Facebook page, the video documentation of our Empowered Women, Empowered Ermita Community Outreach Program on crocheting art, heritage, and livelihood, a skills training program for the underserved women of the populace. So lastly, we look forward to viewing heritage videos, which will be premiered also through the Faura Project Facebook page on Friday, the 5th and last day of the festival, which will culminate with an evening event, our much-awaited Dress Up Santa Cruzan, a virtual fashion show inspired by the symbols of the traditional May Santa Cruzan. So lastly, we would like to say that the events of the week-long festival of the Faura Project are aligned with two United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. First, SDG 11, that of forwarding human resource development and capacity building through our training activities, as well as in our effort to protect and safeguard the cultural and natural heritage of the country. And second, SDG 15, that of protecting and promoting the sustainable use of terrestrial ecosystems and halt biodiversity loss as we pursue and promote conservation of endemic species. So once again, welcome to our Flores de Mayo Festival, and looking forward to see you in many of our events this week.
Yes, thank you so much for the warm welcome, Dr. Achanzar-Labor. And now to continue on with the next part of our opening program, let me call on Assistant Professor Alice Adava, the current chair of the Department of Arts and Communication in the University of the Philippines, Manila, to introduce the next set of speakers.
Good morning, everyone. It is a pleasure for me to introduce Prof. Maria Constancia Obrero Carrillo, Professor of Biochemistry and Dean of the College of Arts and Sciences. While Professor Carrillo's training is in drug discovery and biochemistry, she has been very generous in her support of the arts
Oh no, apologies for the technical issue. Um, yes, now we will resume with the screen sharing of the introduction for our speaker.
Good morning, everyone. I take great delight in introducing to you Dr. Carmencita David Padilla, Professor of Pediatrics and Chancellor of the University of the Philippines, Manila. Chancellor Menchit has been an ardent supporter of the arts and culture scene in UP Manila, something we at the Department of Arts and Communication are truly grateful for. The consistency, quality, and longevity of her support, even in the middle of many challenges, is heartening. It is said that all people are unique in their own ways, but the Chancellor takes uniqueness to a whole new level. After all, not everyone can claim to have a flower named after them. On June 22, 2015, the Institute of Plant Breeding of the University of the Philippines Los Baños College of Agriculture named a hybrid of hibiscus, known locally as gumamela, to the public. Hibiscus rosasinensis Carmencita David Padilla was among the hybrids produced by the IPB that year. I'm glad to tell you that the beauty of this hybrid continues to be seen to this day. I'm even gladder to tell you that the person behind the flower is with us today. Please join me in welcoming Chancellor Carmencita David Padilla.
Yay. College of Arts and Sciences Dean Maria Constancia Carillo, Conference Convener and CAS Professor Han Libertine Labor, Dr. Josette Griffin-Kremer from France, Mr. Sushil Sriwasta from India, Dr. Bernadette Escalona Cooper from the US, Mr. Yavuz Sirinoglu from Turkey, Professor Suryati Muhammad Shaari from Malaysia, delegates from the UP Open University, UP Baguio, University of Santo Tomas, De La Salle University, Central Mindanao University, Central Bicol State University, Philippine Nuclear Research Institute, Philippine Botanical Artist Society, as well as delegates from other universities. Good morning. Let me welcome you cordially to this week-long virtual International Flores de Mayo Festival and Conference hosted by the Padre Faura Project Incorporated, jointly hosted with UP Manila and the UP Botanical Society. Bringing this tradition back at the height of the pandemic last year, and again holding it this year, inspire us in our goal to revitalize and enhance the preservation of our historical and cultural heritage in this place, the birthplace of UP and our current setting. Our celebration becomes more meaningful, being a fitting opportunity for a deeper appreciation of Ermita as our locale that has become a part of a home and a sanctuary for every student, faculty, worker, and staff of UP Manila. The combined Marian devotional practices of Spanish and Mexican origins led to the formation of the festival as an entirely unique Filipino Marian devotion. All around the country, churches, especially the altar, are adorned with beautiful flowers, hence its English translation, Flowers of May Festival. It is in itself an enduring trademark about the Philippines, with some Filipinos practicing it even in other countries. The theme, celebrating flowers and floral traditions in the time of pandemic, mirrors the significance of conserving, promoting, and encouraging the continued conduct of floral festivals and other cultural traditions even in times of crisis. Flowers are not only of abundant pulchritude and thus pleasing to look at, but they are able to convey ineffable emotions like joy, honor, sadness, and love. Our university not only concerns itself with intellectual matters, but also with what makes each member of our community truly whole. Our participation in the observance of the Marian month of May as National Heritage Month will strengthen in us a consciousness, respect, and love for the legacies of the nation's cultural history. Fidelity to the intangible heritage of the arts will enhance our blossoming and growth as a nation and as a people. Going through the sessions, I am therefore delighted that the festival will celebrate floral traditions and practices, as well as the heroes whose names are now immortalized in art or in the names of the flowers they have discovered. This will be a much-awaited, interesting part of the celebration. To the participants, I encourage you to maximize your engagement in every activity marking the occasion, such as the floral art exhibit, painting workshops on the subject of endemic flowers, a premiere of heritage videos, and the virtual Santa Cruzan, which will serve as a fashion show and competition. I commend and thank the Faura Project Incorporated for promoting, revitalizing, and sustaining the rich cultural and historical heritage of Ermita, and for rekindling in us a deeper interest and passion for the things that remind us of our beginnings and identity as a people. Again, I reiterate UP Manila's expression of solidarity with the nation and other institutions in commemorating the International Flores de Mayo Festival. I greet everyone a wonderful celebration of the National Heritage Month. Hangad ko ang isang matagumpay at mahalimuyak sa paggunita ng International Flores de Mayo Festival. Maraming salamat po at magandang umaga po muli sa inyo lahat.
And thank you so much, Dr. Padilla and Dr. Achanzar-Labor, for gracing our opening session with your wise and inspiring words. Before we proceed with the next segment, we at the Faura Project would like to show our appreciation to our speakers through these certificates of appreciation. Allow me to read the citation. The Faura Project, incorporated with Philippine Botanical Art Society and the University of the Philippines, Manila, present this certificate of appreciation to Dr. Honey Libertine Achanzar-Labor and Dr. Carmencita D. Padilla for delivering the welcome address during the 2022 International Flores de Mayo Festival and Conference Opening Program, given the second day of May 2022 during the 2022 International Flores de Mayo Festival and Conference, signed by Dr. Honey Labor, Ms. Willa Famoso, and Professor Alice Adeva.
All right, thank you so much, Gab. So now we just had three wonderful two wonderful inspirational messages. A very good start to a very, very good conference. So let's continue on with the very first plenary of the 2022 Flores de Mayo Festival and Conference entitled Floral Traditions in Manila. Wow, what an exciting title, Floral Traditions in Manila. I personally am not super aware yet of the floral traditions that we have here in Manila, although I've been living here for many years. So I'm very, very excited to listen to our speakers for this plenary. So, okay, let's start the ball rolling with our first speaker.
All right. So our first speaker for today is Professor Celia M. Bonilla. She is with the Department of Arts and Communication, College of Arts and Sciences in UP Manila. She teaches Arts 1, a general education college course that ambitiously compresses the scope of literature and art history, and courses in the Philippine Arts degree program. She graduated from UP Diliman with degrees in AP Humanities and MA Art History. She is part of the UP Manila Ugnayan ng Pahinungod as Advocacy Committee Chair and is also a member of the UP Manila Research Ethics Board. Her research publications include different dimensions of the Black Nazarene devotion in Quiapo, old buildings and fortifications in Manila, and other pertinent cultural fields. Again, let's all welcome Professor Bonilla.
On mute, sorry. Okay, good morning, everyone. That was a very good speech, no, from our Chancellor, and thank you. That was a good way to open things. Okay. Mine is really just giving some examples now of floral traditions. Okay. All right. Now this is my talk. Okay. Nilad and other flora as cultural basis of Manila. Okay, because Manila is said to have come variously, from Nila or Nilad. Okay. Now, this is a work by a friend of mine. This is she titled it Celia's Nila or Nilad, and this is by Miss Nice Po. She is an artist, and I asked her if she would like to be part of PhilBAS also. Okay, so this is a rendition, her very own, and she wanted to just focus on the flower. She usually would have figures. Okay, now we know that the country is really well-formed, at the mouth of Pasig, but before that, from the Pleistocene era and all that, there would be so many cataclysmic forces, that had finally formed, the triangle, at the delta, and then here you have the one map, that swayed, our claim, to the island, to the Spratlys, to our favor. This is the Murillo Velarde map, done by Nicolas Cruz Bagay, and here it shows the traditions. Of course, we would like to highlight here our natural traditions, being the natural heritage as basis of our traditions, maybe cultural, even the toponym itself, the toponym or the basis for the name. Now here, of course, is you have the map, the stylized map of Intramuros. And then, of course, this is going to be quite parang an overview, how important it is, that we know how most of our flora are water-based. Okay, and then as such, now you have the Nila or the Nilad. When they say Nila, they are the botanists here can maybe expound on these further, but the idea is that they were of endemic endemic origins, no, meaning they are with us. No, although there were some from Baumgarten, no, it would say that it was really of Sanskrit origin. No, it was of the indigo, no, from natural indigo dye. Okay, and then of course you have the Nilad, which is the mangrove. And the mangrove, as you can see with my, with the painting done for me, it has those tiny white flower, okay, at the stem. Okay, it's so rich, our biodiversity. I was told once that even as many, way back now in the other century, that there would be 20 new species discovered every day here in our country. No, not only, I mean, of course, not Manila anymore, probably, but who knows? But in our country, it's so rich, no, in all these species. Okay. Now, of course, to show off na that, no, even Augustinian Father Blanco, no, Manuel Blanco, had come up with his Flora de Filipina, no, in which luckily someone gifted me with my own set, no, of plates, no, of the Flora de Filipina. Okay, and then just to show you here, no, this is the rendition in Blanco's Flora de Filipina, no. Of course, I was looking for the one of Quiapo. There was nothing of Quiapo. No, now this is the Nila, the mangrove, no, the one on the left. And then while Nila is the natural indigo, said to be of Sanskrit origin, like I said before, no. Okay, this is just an overview. And then of course we have here, no, how it's been noted, no, that my Nila is was really from that abundance, no, of the Nila or the Nilad, no. You would see different sources, no. They would say it's really Nila, but then they would say it's quite it can be interchanged, Nila and Nilad, no, or the Spaniards had it backwards, no, it's really Nila. But then, of course, no, it would just show the richness of the species that abound here. Okay, maybe the Nilad now is already an evolved species from a combination of things that have happened here in our country. What with the pollution, of course, the idea is to survive all these things now that are happening. And of course, it begs the question, my talk, no, it begs the question of conservation. How do we conserve all these, no, the essence of having all these gifts, no, natural heritage would be to conserve them, no? And here you're seeing DNR Secretary Simatu do spearheading, no, the Nilad Festival. They thought it was going to be a festival. It's really a way to conserve it. They here they are planting the mangrove. You know, while we did that before in Indonesia, we planted mangrove. The idea is for you to have the seedling, but it's the bold one, no? It's not that the smaller one, no? Because the idea is for you to plant it in the water, no? Here, I'm just wondering, maybe the mangrove that we have here is a little, I know, maybe this is the species that would adapt well, no? This is in Baseco, so you can imagine the Baseco area, and then there's one in the near the CCP, no? And then farther down the what's this, the Baywalk area, okay? And then of course here's they had bold it, no, bold it's so as to be able to make it it's already partly grown, and that we have to nurture it, as it is with culture, as it is the essence of culture, the core of culture is cult, meaning to take care. No, so that is what we are called to do. Not to take care of our natural heritage and of course the built heritage. And then the traditions. The traditions are the intangible ones, no, the ones that are being lived, no, by the people and evolved through time, no, through oral traditions. Here I'm showing you another species. No, this is the Quiapo. No, another toponym, no, of Quiapo. I mean, this is the basis for the word the name Quiapo. No, yung Quiapo is water cabbage, or as Nick Joaquin would have it, you have the Cuyapo. Okay, and here in Quiapo is the locale, no, for the basilica, no, of it was initially dedicated to Saint John the Baptist. No, and now it's the minor basilica of the Black Nazarene. No, now interestingly, we have already imbibed, no, and inculturated, no, the Christian religion, no, made imposed upon us by the Spaniards, because it's such a lively way of picking up, no, something so foreign that post-colonially we were able to make it our own, no, to make it our own, to give it our own blend, because it really makes sense for us. That's the idea of making it our own. We make it relevant. Okay. Now here, of course, you have the patron, no, which is from Mexico, 1606, no, 1607, earlier brought in, no, by the Augustinian Recollects. Okay. But and then of course the festival would also include, maybe not anymore bringing along Quiapo, the plant, no, but the very essence of Quiapo, meaning it's well, Quiapo is one of the extramuros churches, no, so it's beyond the walls, no. I showed you earlier the intramuros, no, within the walls, no, but this one is beyond it. Okay, because outside of it you had really the expansion, no. It's not like the Spaniards had left out, no, what's outside of the walls, no. In fact, they kept pushing back the boundaries of what we know to be our country, no. For them anyway, we know that this is our country, no, but for them they kept exploring and colonizing, no. And then of course part of the colonizing would also be introducing new species, no, and that is why we are now looking at a very dynamic blend, no, of what is colonial, what has been imposed, and what is native or what has grown in our country itself, no, endemic and natural to our country. Okay, now here and then here, of course, now you're familiar with this, no. Pandan is another plant, no, that is another species, no, and then of course we celebrate it, no, with Nuestra Senora de Guia, whose iconography would find her on the pandan leaves, no, that's the pandan leaves under her, because she was found in the it must have been something like 1572, no, when Legazpi came here. That was when they found some soldiers, no, maybe walking along the beach, no. They found this very beautiful, this bare, no, anito-looking stub of an image, no, being worshipped according to them, no, by the natives. And then they realized it must have been a prow, no, from the ship. And then because it's a little like that, no, it's not completely and the hands are not in the prayer pose completely, no, as we would do. But it's like that, no, it's a little more oriental, no. Then they were thinking it must have come from the Portuguese, no, because the Portuguese, we're really on the Portuguese side, no, of the Alexander the Sixth, parang line, no, of division. between the Spaniards and the Portuguese. Okay. Now here, of course, we are. I suppose we will be having another talk, no, on the beautiful traditions that we have in terms of the devotion we have for the Nuestra Senora de Guia, which is of course the oldest icon we have, the oldest image we have of the Blessed Virgin Mary. Okay, now this is her, no. It's a little. They would even say it's a bit more like Guan Yin, no. Of course, for the Chinese, they've already enculturated that, no. It's already 1572. By that time, the Portuguese have already established their ports, no, somewhere in Macau, no, like that. Okay, so it's interesting how we are making it our own. Okay, so at this point, no, maybe we can sail back, no, for more projects, no, in order to enrich our culture, no, with what we find in history. And then, of course, the idea is that we learn history correctly, no, no revisionism. And then, of course, it's really beautiful that we are. It's only when I was made to do this paper that I found out they were doing a replanting, no, of the Nilad, which I find better than having dolomite, no, in some places, no. It's really a lot better, no. So at this point, no, we will. This ends my talk, no, and it's really a good bat, no, for our awareness, no. So awareness as well as love, no. Yes, we have to call it the love of place, the pride of place, no. As we find it interesting, no. What even Manila, My Manila by Nick Joaquin has always recalled, no, the prehistory of the Philippines, no, how all the cataclysms led, no, to this beautiful crafting by nature of our islands, no, especially Manila. That's why he titled his book Manila, My Manila. So at this point, and thank you for your kind attention. I'm turning you back over to our organizers. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much, Professor Bonilla, for sharing valuable information about the culture of flora and religion and in relate to today's event.
Yes, thank you so much po, Mabanilia Gabe. I didn't know na Quiapo, the word Quiapo came from a plant. And of course, I already know that my Nila, just amazing. Thank you so much, Mabanilia. So actually, for our next speaker, she's already here with us today. We have Miss Marinal Completo. So she is a fourth-year student taking up BA Philippine Arts in the University of the Philippines, Manila. In her years of being a student leader in school and within and outside her community, she was awarded the Jerry Rojas Leadership Award in 2016, the National Discipline Award by the AY Foundation, and the Isabelan of the Year Award in 2018. At present, she is the elected Sangguniang Kabataan Chairperson or SK Chairperson of Barangay 669 in Ermita, Manila, and she belongs to the Council of the Sangguniang Kabataan Federation of the whole City of Manila, where she is elected as the Public Relations Officer. She is also a current member of the Rotary Club of Manila Tourist Belt and was club president of the Rotaract Club of Manila Robinson in 2019 to 2020. As a true-blooded Ermitense, she is the reigning Mutya ng Ermita since 2015, which made her the Kapitana of the Bota Flora celebration of the Archdiocesan Shrine of the Nuestra Senora de Guia in 2016. So here we have an scholar ng bayan, a beauty queen, and also a leader. Let's give it up for Miss Completo, and let's give her the warmest welcome.
There you go. Thank you very much for that wonderful introduction, Charisse. So first and foremost, I would like to greet everyone, our distinguished guests and speakers, professors, fellow students, and everyone who made time to attend this conference. A very beautiful floral day to all. Once again, I am Marinel Completo, a fourth-year BA Philippine Art student at the University of the Philippines, Manila. And I would just like to say that this is such an honor to be a part of this colloquium, and I cannot wait to walk you through the narratives of the lurking, beautiful floral tradition in the historic and cultural district of the country's capital, Ermita in Manila. Now, for those of you who doesn't know about the district of Ermita or hasn't been to Ermita or has been to Ermita, let me introduce and reintroduce you Ermita. Well, Ermita is a commercial compact district located in the central part of the capital city of the country, Manila. And it is in fact a prominent, as some of you may know, since it serves as the core of the metro, as it is where it situates the significant centers of the country, such as in finance, education, culture, and commerce. Over and above that, private and government offices, museums, and universities also thrive in Ermita. More so, it is home to the famous tourist attractions and landmarks of the country, notably the famous Rizal Park, the premier national park of the Philippines. Well, the district is also, somewhat very bustling. So if you know or have been to Rojas Boulevard, where you can see an overlooking of the sunset in Manila Bay, or the crowded and buzzing Taft Avenue, then definitely or probably you may have already crossed the streets of Ermita. But despite being one of the most urbanized districts in the metro, who would have thought that beneath these high-rising buildings, busy streets, and all the buzzing noise of the city, there lurks a culturally rich floral tradition that has long been observed since the early 1900s, and that is the Bota Flores tradition. So the Bota Flores tradition is celebrated on the feast of the icon of Ermita, Nuestra Señora de Guia, as also introduced to us by Professor Bonilla, which is also the oldest existing Marian image in the Philippines. So it is really a pride of Ermita and its tradition as well. So the Bota Flores is celebrated, as I mentioned, on the feast of Nuestra Señora de Guia, and it has been recognized as one of the longest observed devotions of the Ermitenses of the community of Ermita. It is actually attributed as a special accolade to Nuestra Señora de Guia. So this specific image can be found in Ermita as well, in the Archdiocesan Shrine of Nuestra Señora de Guia. The structure you can see in the image presented. So there it houses the image and where the floral tradition is being exhibited, apart from it being flaunted within the streets of Ermita. So initially, the image received a feast day on December 18th. That is the feast of the expectation of the Blessed Virgin Mary. But it was later on transferred to May 19, the date of the finding of the said image in 1571. Thus, the said tradition is also celebrated during this time every year of the 19th of May. So can you just imagine how the image and the floral tradition has long been observed even before the country was named and Manila was formed, before it was formally celebrated in the 1900s. So with that, the said tradition is considered to be one of the most significant devotions in honor of the image of Nuestra Señora de Guia and in the community of Ermita. So in this particular tradition, there are singing of songs for the Virgin, dancing, the reenactment of the finding of the image, a floral procession, and most importantly, the showering of native wildflowers for the image by the Kapitana is being held. In addition, a loa, spelled as LOA, or a poem of praise or prayer, is also being delivered by the Kapitana as a sign of admiration to the image. And afterwards, a floral offering by its devotees concludes the ceremony. But I will give more specific details to that in the latter part of the discussion. So another fun fact, I guess it was also mentioned by Professor Bonilla, but this tradition rooted way before the Spanish discovery of the image, when the Filipino natives used to worship the image the same way of singing, dancing, and showering of flowers to the said image they perceived. Now, why is this account really important? So, well, since according to the history of the finding of the image, when a soldier of Miguel Lopez de Legazpi found the image along the shores of Ermita, when it was just all sea or all ocean here in Ermita before it was a commercial district that we know now, they saw these native Filipinos worshiping the said image as if it was a pagan image. They were doing such worship through the forms of, as I said a while ago, singing, dancing, and most importantly, the strewing of wildflowers to the image, which was then described to be surrounded by pandan leaves. So imagine the antiquity of the showering of flowers tradition and how it was remarkably retained to be done up to now. So centuries later, though, back in the mid-20th century, the bota flores was originally used as a sign of protest to the Archbishop of Manila in a petition to permanently return the image of Nuestra Señora de Guia to its first and real home in Ermita. So yes, you heard it right. Even though it is an Ermita icon, it has several years, even 100 years since its finding first in Manila Cathedral. So during this time of protest, the tossing of flowers led by the Kapitana before the cathedral was part of the indication of dissent. So the so-called Kapitana initially tossed flowers all over the cathedral non-stop, as if they were messing the surroundings of the cathedral to sort of like displease the Archbishop. And it actually really displeased the Archbishop, which granted them the petition. So these are all done just for the image to be returned to Ermita. And fortunately, it was granted by Archbishop Michael J. O'Doherty, the Manila Cathedral Rector, and the Prelate Archbishop of Manila in 1918. So since 1918, it was originally transferred, or it went back to its original home in Ermita Church, to where we are seeing it now. So after which, the tossing of flowers, this tradition later on developed as a reverence for the Virgin and grew into one of the most anticipated traditions being exhibited every year on our feast day celebration, which is being done up to this day, and actually will be done this coming 19th of May. So if you are interested to come and you want to witness it personally, you are welcome to see it and see it for yourself. So this is an image of the Kapitana back in 2021 as she is about to conduct the flower tossing ceremony to the image of the Nuestra Señora de Guia. So at this juncture, you may wonder, why am I the chosen person to present this to you? Or what is my involvement in this celebration? Well, to answer this question, it is because I was once the chosen Kapitana in the Bota Flores celebration back in the year 2016. So if you may have noticed in my earlier discussions, I have mentioned the Kapitana name a couple of times and its significant role in the celebration. But to give you a more detailed explanation as to what or who is a Kapitana in this floral tradition is, the Kapitana is actually chosen every year to spearhead the fiesta celebration, most significantly the Bota Flores or the flower tossing ceremony. She is selected by the Parish Pastoral Council from the church upon deliberation from a set of candidates. So the criteria to be a Kapitana, or for choosing the Kapitana before, was a little girl of around 4 to 9 years old. For the time being, though, her mother or guardian will represent the year's Hermana Mayor. Though through time, the chosen Kapitana's age was adjusted to one who is 13 years and above, so one who reached the age of reason, due to the fact that the selected kapitana has to know her significance and duty as a role model for other young women to emulate. So this is because the kapitana is recognized to be a woman who would represent the women of Ermita and the women of the image de Guia. So it was actually believed that if you were chosen to be the kapitana, it was Virgen de Guia herself who personally chose you. So even though there's a voting, it was fate that brought the kapitana to that title, to that certain person, to that kapitana title. So indeed, there is a privilege to be a kapitana, and it is a great honor by the young women of Ermita coexisting with the responsibility of being a woman worth it to be taken as a good example. So the first ever kapitana was Patria Hill in 1916. Unfortunately, I do not have an image of her, but here are images of me back when I was kapitana in 2016. So there you go. Unfortunately, I don't have much picture and I don't know why, but here is the Bota Flores celebration in 2018 when I was also invited once again to be part of the Bota Flores celebration, but not as a kapitana, but a delegate for the Santa Cruzan or the Sagala. So now, apart from the flower tossing ceremony that the kapitana shall lead, as I said earlier, she's also tasked to recite the Loa, a prayer poem offered for the Digia. So this is an example of a kapitana back then reciting the Loa. So aside from the kapitana though, I have also mentioned that a certain Hermana Mayor has a role in this floral tradition. So who is the Hermana Mayor? So the Hermana Mayor is also appointed every year by the Parish Pastoral Council, and she has to be a parishioner or devotee of the image, whether past or present, who is willing to shoulder the responsibility of at least compensating or sponsoring the expenses of the Bota Flores celebration and its preparations. Although before, it used to be the mother or guardian of the year's kapitana. She usually accompanies the kapitana in the flower tossing ceremony, and the responsibility of compensating the events preparation are no longer applicable or no longer required in today's time. Moving forward, let us now delve into the specifics of the Bota Flores celebration and what is really happening in this specific floral event. So, as an opening of the traditional celebration on the 19th of May, a floral offering by 6:20 in the morning is being done for the Virgin. So, it is led by the parish priest, and it is succeeded by a prayer, an incensation, and another floral offering of the Hermana Mayor at 6:30 in the morning, all happening in the Nuestra Señora de Guia Plaza, just in front of the church, where there is also a large structure of the said image in the said plaza. Then, by 4 o'clock in the afternoon, which is the highlight of the fiesta, the Bota Flores celebration embarks with the reenactment of the finding of the image and the return of the image in Ermita from Manila Cathedral by a group of performers within the church. This is also where the caracol happens, but the caracol only started way 4 years ago. So it was just a preliminary tradition as a part of the Bota Flores tradition. So a procession, commonly known as Sagala or Santa Cruzan, will follow. It is being done along the streets of the vicinity of Ermita, but only within the bounds of Zone 72. So that's Barangay 666 to Barangay 670. And that is also just the compound of the church. So here, a parade of little girls and young women with their escorts from the 5 barangays of Zone 72, Ermita, are dressed in grand gowns with their towering floral arches placed above them as they promenade their way back to Ermita Church. So this is just like the reinventing of the usual Santa Cruzan here in the Philippines, but with an addition of the Bota Flores, with just the addition for the Bota Flores celebration. So here are more pictures of the floral procession. So it usually starts at 4 the 4 p.m. but ends around 6 p.m. to 7 p.m. depending on um, the the length of the streets to be roamed around by the procession or to be covered by the floral procession. So they are usually led by the Kapitana and the image of the Nuestra Señora de Guia in a beautifully adorned carroza. So usually the last one in line is the image of the Nuestra Señora de Guia. So devotees, parishioners, and the Ermita community are enjoined in this procession as they are accompanied by a marching band. So the procession of Bota Flores is actually distinctly naval in theme. So usually the little boys who march in the procession are in sailor suits, but now the seamen of Ermita, who are turned devotees of the image, becomes the guard of honor of the image, recalling the days when the galleon crew and men from the Spanish Royal Navy performed the service under sign of devotion as well for the continuing guidance of the image in their sail to the sea. So this seamen actually, some of them resides within the compound of Ermita Church, and some of them really are not from Ermita, but they are returning residents or returning tenants of Ermita as seamen, as they believe that it was Nuestra Señora de Guia who guided them throughout their sailing through the seas. So at times, the parade pauses at the place of residence of the Kapitana, and there the flower tossing ceremony for the Virgin takes place together with the Hermana Mayor. And during my term as the Kapitana, we paused in our barangay at the Barangay 669 Hall, and this is where I conducted the flower tossing ceremony. So while preparations were also done during that time for our part as Kapitana, since we have to prepare and decorate a stage in front of the barangay hall to reach the image in the flower tossing event. So and also I need to memorize the prayer poem called Loa, which invariably follows in the same spot, but in my case I presented it inside the church. So this is the prepared stage with floral adornments for the flower tossing ceremony or the Bota Flores celebration. And here is an image of the flower tossing ceremony inside the church or within the vicinity of the church, where this Bota Flores happened in the recent year 2021, and the Loa was also conducted in that same spot. So upon the arrival naman of the image back to the church, a solemn entrance of the image is enacted, and another flower tossing ceremony is being done, but now by the devotees and the faithful. So this is also called the maringal na pagpasok sa simbahan, a very grandeur floral tradition mostly practiced by its devotees. And usually right after, a lot of devotees would catch their breath just to have a piece of a rose or a stem of a flower from the image. So the Misa Mayor or Eucharistic celebration begins afterwards, usually presided and attended by church dignitaries, which is also the culmination of the celebration. So the devotees can then again line up after the Misa Mayor to offer naman their personal flowers for the image, or it can be a bouquet usually. And the feast closes with a salo-salo or a small celebration for the participants of the said event. So indeed, it has always been a festive celebration filled with flowers all over the vicinity of the church, particularly flower petals. It was quite messy, as you can observe, but this is just how florals and the devotion to the image strengthens the culture and community involvement of the people of Ermita. And to belong to the list of kapitanas of this floral tradition dating since 1918, it is such a heartwarming and remarkable honor and experience that I, as a born and raised Ermitense, will forever treasure. So to end this presentation, I would like to share this quotation by Claire Ansderi saying that flowers have a way of bringing people together, drawing them from their homes And for the people of Ermita, their floral tradition just happens to be that binding hope every year that makes them come out of their homes and come together to celebrate the festivity of their rich history and culture. And that concludes my presentation on the Bota Flores celebration of Ermita. I hope that I was able to shed light into this beautiful floral tradition in the heart of this bustling district. So thank you so much once again, and a wonderful floral day once again. Thank you.
Yes, thank you so much, Miss Completa, for your talk. Honestly, like this is my first time hearing about the Bota Flores, and I'm so excited to maybe visit Ermita this coming May 19th to really see it for myself. So yes, again, thank you so much, Miss Completa.
Yeah, I also feel the same. I also wanted to go, but due to the limitations. But still, I am enlightened with the history of Ermita since I'm not much of a Malinenyo myself. So thank you very much. Now we move on to our next speaker. We again have Dr. Honey Libertine Achanzar-Labor. Dr. Honey Libertine Achanzar-Labor is Professor 5 at the University of the Philippines, Manila, where she teaches Arts 1 and courses in the Philippine arts, cultural heritage, and arts management. She was named University Artist through the Arts Productivity Program of the University of the Philippines system, acknowledging her contribution in creative research, publication, and promotion of cultural heritage. She is also a UP Centennial and one UP Professorial Chair awardee. She graduated from UP Diliman with degrees in BA Humanities, Pre-Med, and MA Ph.D. Philippine Studies, using anthropology of art as primary approach in research. Her research interests include Southeast Asian art, anthropology of art, and medical anthropology. Her most recent publications include a chapter in the Scopus Index book, Religious Tourism in Asia, Tradition and Change Through Case Studies, Oxford Cabby 2018, and journal articles titled Calle Faura, Cultural Heritage Amidst Conflict in Ermita, Manila, and the Calle Faura Journal 2017, 7-9, ISBN 25992428, and Ibaloy of Benguet as active agents in health negotiations in Philippine Journal of Health Research and Development 2018. She is the founder and executive director of the Faura Project, and as a response to the Marawi siege, she convened the first the Faura Project Conference, The Lost and the Retrieved, Cultural Heritage Amidst Conflict in 2017, and the celebration of the annual Flores de Mayo sa Calle Faura festivals. Again, let's welcome the ever-talented Dr. Achanzar-Labor.
Right. Good day to all. Magandang araw po sa lahat. Balik sa kahalamanan, Flora as ground in cultural heritage conservation. So the convener of the annual Flores de Mayo festivals, the Faura Project, was formed by a group of heritage advocates, mostly members of the faculty, students, and alumni of the BA Philippine Arts, Cultural Heritage, and Arts Management program of the University of the Philippines, Manila, who shared the same advocacy to address the stretch of Padre Faura Street and its environs as heritage zone. So the group began by mapping heritage trails on the designated zone and conducting this for targeted groups of varying profiles. So then professors, alumni, and students were engaged to join in our advocacy as heritage trail guides or moderators. Consultation with architects and heritage conservators were regularly done, and so with local government officials. So we see here the foremost heritage conservator, architect Gerard Lico, checking out the Rizal Hall of UP Manila. And on the next page is during our 2015 Faura Project Conference on Heritage, we see that one of our participants, well, our keynote guest was then Vice Mayor Isko Moreno, who is now our incumbent mayor in Manila. So street heritage advocates from other communities, some from the Philippines and also later from abroad, were invited as well to share their experience in heritage conservation or in promoting heritage in their communities. Best practices are viewed as significant learning tools. So for Calle Colon, we had Mr. Dino Guerrero, who's part of the local government in Cebu. And yes, on the rightmost poster, we see this speaker, Philippine Arts, Cultural Heritage, and Arts Management alumna, Ms. Dr. Ethel Villafranca, who is now the curator and exhibitions manager at the Chinese Museum in Melbourne, Australia. At the center is also an alumna, this is Ella de los Santos, who is now the visitor experience lead in Puke Ariki, the center of Maui Heritage in New Plymouth, New Zealand. And on the left, we had Mr. Vito Hernandez, who spoke about Adelaide and the scenario of some of the Aborigines in the area in relation to how or to heritage management or urban planning in Adelaide, South Australia. But with the change in the start of academic year, as discussed earlier during the welcome address, the month of May now falls during the regular second term or semester, thereby affecting the regular conduct of the traditional Flores de Mayo, an important intangible cultural heritage in the Philippines. Thus, the Faura Project's Flores de Mayo Festival was conceived, a perfect platform for promoting and conserving both the intangible cultural heritage of the Flores de Mayo and the use of endemic or native flora in the month of May. So the first Flores de Mayo Festival and Conference took place in 2018. Its theme, Endemic Flowers in the Philippines, advocated the conservation of native flowers and disseminated the harm that non-endemic plants give to the environment as they hinder the growth of native plants. It opened with a parade of endemic flowers, some freshly cut, while some beautifully painted on banners held by the participants. So the parade of flowers began at the Rizal Hall of the University of the Philippines, Manila, along Padre Faura Street, then around the campus, and ended at the UP Manila Museum of a History of Ideas with the opening of an exhibit, Pagsibol or Growth, an art exhibit on the theme of endemic flowers. So art talks and workshops accompany the week-long exhibit. So, and all these were covered by media, including CNN Philippines, which broadcasted the event on national TV. So the first Flores de Mayo Festival of the Faura Project became an annual event and eventually taken as its flagship project. Consequent heritage programs were imbued and accompanied now with the call to propagate and conserve local flora, or balik sang kahalamanan, a return to local flora, and not only in the month of May. So spread out during the year are webinars and community skills training programs promoting sustainability and livelihood, which brings us now to our Empowered Women, Empowered Ermita project, our way of acknowledging that the locals in the community are culture bearers and repository of memory. Thus, any support given to them is a step towards heritage conservation. With the support and collaboration of Barangay 669 local officials, headed by Barangay Chairperson Cynthia Loriente. At the center of the lower leftmost picture on the screen, and Sangguniang Kabataan Chairperson Marinel Completo, leftmost in the picture. The Faura project is now conducting a continuing program for the underserved women in the district, crocheting art, heritage, and livelihood. Each meeting in the training program is an occasion to disseminate the importance of heritage through talks or lectures, but also through crafts themselves, as all projects are made to bear the semblance or design of an endemic flower, starting with that of the Nilad plant. So before I show a 4-minute video of the launch of the said project, let me end the presentation now by with my concluding line. So the conservation and promotion of local heritage increase the pride of place of the people in the community. But grounding the call for heritage conservation on balik sangkahalamanan leads one to demand an ecology wherein what is natural and appropriate for the environment is what is necessary, and that any undertaking related to this is worth its while. In fact, it is essential in the healing of a total person, as it nourishes pagpapahalaga, value, and self-worth. It is in this context that balik sangkahalamanan is viewed as a developmental symbol of valuation. So thank you for listening, and I hope you enjoy the video. That's a Nilad flower on the left, on the upper left-hand corner.
At ngayon po, isa po natin ang organizer po, ang ating katuwang organisasyon, ang The Faura Project, para sa proyekto ito. Alam niyo, ang tagal na natin pinag-usapan ng livelihood. And thank you so much sa Prof. Levi at natuloy na rin. Alam niyo po, napakaganda po nitong mga programa na ganito. Napakaswerte niyo po at meron kayong ganitong programa dito sa barangayan. Ang Faura Project po ay isang organisasyon na ang layunin ay buhay
thank you for listening, or thank you for watching.
Wow, okay, what a very powerful start for our Flores de Mayo Festival 2022. Thank you so much to our speakers. That was indeed a very enlightening set of talks, and I for sure learned a lot. So I'm hoping everyone did too.
Yes, and I think that everybody has learned a lot and would like to learn more. So for this portion of the program, the floor is open for any questions you have for our speakers.
So I guess for now, you may send in your questions through the Zoom chat, or you can opt to raise your hand and then we will call you so that we can unmute you and you can ask your question yourself. But for now, we actually already have 2 questions for our speakers. So the first question that we have is for Professor Bonilla. So Professor Bonilla, if you're still here, what could be the possible factors for why the NILAD plant was used to name Manila, aside from it being abundant during the Spanish colonization?
Would you mind repeating the question, please?
Yes, okay, sure. So for Professor Bonilla, what could be the possible factors why the NILAD plant was used to name Manila, aside from it being abundant during the Spanish colonization?
Well, so many stories abound that they say that it was named even before the Spanish conquistadores came. They're saying because there have always been nilads in that area, they would affix the prefix may, to say na Maynila, that it has become the toponym for Manila. As well as when the Spanish conquistadors came, they cemented it in more ways than one by really putting it in the books, in the chronicles, how it is the abundance of nilad would be the basis for calling it such, Maynilad. Now, whether it's a typographical error on their part, that they added that they dropped the A, because of some cultural mispronunciation. It's there for people to also conjecture. Okay. And then also there are two, like what I presented earlier, they were probably two species, the Nila and the Nilad. The Nila would be the one that has the dye, the indigo dye, natural dye, which is from India, eventually found its way here, as well as the Nilad, where you have the mangrove. And the mangrove is the one being replanted now. Bold as they are, and they are parang set in along the shore, Baseco, and closer to the Bay Walk, and then farther down in CCP area, in order to help stem also the way the land would be like the way the Dolomites would go back to sea. They could not do that in that area because it's so it's already been disturbed. But it has to be somewhere like in Baseco. Even if there's so many trash, they managed to clear it. And then they had bridges along the way, and they were able to do the planting on solid ground, more or less, maybe loamy. I would think it's loamy, because when we did that in Indonesia, like I said, we were really in our rush guards, and then putting the seed, the big Well, it's practical. Well, it's a seedling, no, but it's quite tall now by the time we embedded it in the sea. And you really have to like dive, no, into the sea in order to put it there. And my challenge is for people to help, no, in the preservation, no, and conservation of the NILAD, no, because it's mangrove. Now, mangrove is something that helps in preventing the dispersal, no, of so many resources. No, mangrove is also the nursery of fish. No, so we can help them. No, it produces oxygen. No, and help in stemming, no, the erosion of the earth. Okay, so yun. And then maybe my challenge for students is also to start looking for other species, no, endemic species, in which they would find also that those species to be the basis of the name of the place where it's found, no, somehow, no, diba? It's a good discovery also, no. Yeah. Did I
Thank
answer
you,
the
thank you.
question?
Po. Yes, you definitely did. Thank you so much, po, Professor Bonilla. So yes, let's heed the call of Professor Bonilla to help preserve and conserve the NILAD plant, and also to our student scientists here, or to our scientists here. Yes, let's help look for these endemic plants that we can also use to represent the places that we found them in.
Yeah,
Thank you so much. Po. Yes,
Okay,
thank you so much, Professor Bonilla.
you're welcome.
Okay. So I think we have another question from our guests. Gab?
Right, let me read the question. This is directed to Miss Marinelle. Okay, so the question is, how did Ermita celebrate the Bota Flores during the pandemic?
Okay. So, on the advent of the pandemic back in the year 2020, unfortunately, there was no Bota Flores celebration during that time. But there was just like a car parade. Like the image was placed in a car, and then it was adorned with florals, the car itself. And it roamed around the streets of Ermita, but that was just it. But back in the year 2021, the tradition was the tradition returned. So there was a kapitana once again, and the practice of the Hermana Mayor in the flower tossing event came back again. Which also you saw in the pictures I used in my presentation. So even though with the limitation of people coming within the church or inside the church during the Bota Flores celebration, the event still happened despite the crisis. So they really strive to make it happen even though there was still a pandemic. So though fortunately this year 2022, everything is slowly going back to normal, from its caracol tradition to its reenactment of the finding of the image and the return of the image actually. And they will also be reenacting the canonical coronation of the image as well during this upcoming May 19. So definitely they are really going back to the normal tradition of doing the Bota Flores celebration. But back in 2020, there was really none. There was no Kapitana and no Hermana Mayor, but in 2021 it was returned, or it came back.
Right. Thank you, Miss Marinelle. And it was a compromise that the beautiful celebration had its limits. But based from your presentation and the following years, the celebration is blooming again. So thank you for answering that question.
Miss Marinelle, invite mo naman kami ng mga taga Manila dito to the Bota Flores celebration this May 19.
Yes, actually, as I mentioned earlier, you are all welcome if you want to witness the Bota Flores celebration personally this coming May 19, Thursday, they will also be actually going to Manila Cathedral to reenact the return of the image from Manila Cathedral to Ermita, which is I think another tradition to look forward to in the upcoming Bota Flores celebration. So you can join if you want. It starts, I think, the celebration in the afternoon. The Archdiocesan Shrine of Nuestra Senora Nuestra Senora de Guia Facebook page has updated its its schedules for the said activities naman. So you can check it out if you want to. So I hope to see you there for everyone or for other people who are interested to join. So that's all.
Thank you so much, Ms. Completa. Okay, so we have another question. I think this is our last question for this session. So this question is for Professor Achanzar-Labor. So for Professor Achanzar-Labor, your crocheting project is nice and well-intentioned. Props to the team and congrats for making this happen. However, I would just like to ask how you plan to sustain this activity in order to continuously support the ladies of Ermita.
Yes, this is the reason why from the very start we saw that it was something that we had to do in collaboration with the local barangay. So we have a memorandum of agreement. We actually had a MOA with Barangay 669, us, and we are also most grateful. As Marinelle mentioned earlier, she did mention that she is part of the Rotary group, and so is with the barangay chairperson, Cynthia Lauriente, and they have also vouched to help us fund some of the activities. So it's actually a collaboration of many groups. The barangay, the private group of the Rotary, and of course the Faura project's directives as to how to ensure that heritage will always be incorporated in the need to heighten sustainability and to increase livelihood and stability for the underserved women of Ermita, starting with this barangay. So hopefully, we even actually hope that this will just be our pilot project, and that this will continue. And more than anything, our dream is not limited to the crochet project, because we know from this was supposed to be part of my longer talk if my laptop did not get lost. Sorry if my laptop last week didn't crash. It was meant to be with my paper, but thank you for your question that I get to tell you this, that I'm sure many of you have heard one of the lectures or paper presentation of Dr. Luisa Camagay, a renowned Filipino historian, who has shared with us several archival documents which indicate or which show that Ermita and Malate were the center of embroidery in the late 19th century Philippines. And this is something that we would like to revive in the Ermita area. And we are so happy that Barangay Chairperson Llorente are really very much supportive of this, and in fact have vouched to actually purchase sewing machines for the women of Ermita, and to find the location for this. So because it is, even though so of course it's embroidery, in order for this embroidered and crocheted projects to really be sustainable and to be something that would interest sales or to be marketable, not to be marketable, the edges has to be sewn, and some areas also have to be sewn. But of course, the idea there is to really, engage these women to undergo, to carry out actual handicraft, the tradition or the practice of this cultural heritage practice of pagbuburda or embroidery. So I hope I answered your question, Sha. Yes.
Yes, you did. But thank you so much, Professor Achanzar-Labor. And again, thank you so much to Ms. Completo and Professor Bernilia for also answering the other question. So actually, that ends our Q&A portion. So again, thank you so much to our audience for actively participating. And to our speakers, thank you so much for your time. But before we proceed with the next segment, we at the Faura Project would like to show our appreciation to our speakers through these certificates of appreciation. So allow me to read the citation. Next slide, please. Yan, okay. So the Faura Project Incorporated with the Philippine Botanical Art Society and the University of the Philippines, Manila present the Certificate of Appreciation to Celia Bonilla for speaking on Milad as cultural basis of Manila, to Ms. Marina Completo for speaking on Flores de Mayo and Ermita, Manila and Autoethnography, and to Dr. Honey Libertine Achanzar-Labor for speaking on Balik Sang Kahalamanan, Flora as Ground in Cultural Heritage Conservation, given the 2nd May of 2022 during the conference plenary on floral traditions in Manila, during the 2022 International Flores de Mayo Festival and Conference, signed by Professor Alice Adava, the chair of the DAC CAS UP Manila, and Ms. Wila Famoso Takan, the president of the Philippine Botanical Art Society. So yes, again, thank you so much to our speakers. But before we formally end, promise last na, can you please ask the speakers to turn on their cameras so that we can take a quick picture? Yes, so Ms. Completa and Ms. Professor Bonilla, if you can also turn on your cameras. Professor Bonilla, yun. Okay, wait, let me just spotlight you. All right. Okay. Yes, thank you so much, Cory. Okay. Okay, so let's smile. Okay, 1, 2, 3, smile. Okay, another one just to be sure. Okay, 1, 2, 3, smile. Okay, thank you so much to our speakers and also to our audience for actively participating in this part of our program. All right. Okay, so we now move on to our next plenary entitled World Floral Festivals. Yes, World Floral Festivals. Wow. As the name of our festival and conference entail, we are indeed going global, guys. The Faura Project is going global. So for this plenary, expect to hear from excellent people from all over the globe, sharing the floral festivals that are unique to their respective hometowns. So it is my pleasure to present our first speaker for this plenary. So Miss Cosette Kremer did her doctorate on traditional May Day festivities and practices at the University of Western Brittany in the Center for Breton and Celtic Research, where she's also an associate researcher. This broader topic included many flower and greenery-related customs in the British Isles and Europe, which led to closer investigation of French May Day practices, as well as research into specific faiths, such as the Lily of the Valley Festival in the town of Rambouillet. In this presentation, you will be able to take a glance at both the broad May Day customs involving Lily of the Valley in France, as well as the local town customs. And Cosette is especially pleased to be part of your efforts to bring people from around the world to bring testimony on flower festivals and how they have been pursued during the pandemic. So this is certainly a valuable contribution to tangible and intangible heritage conservation and promotion, as well as heightening our awareness of the necessity to encourage sustainable production of the flowers and plants that have brightened our lives during the health crisis. So again, let's give it up for Ms. Cosette Griffin-Kremer.
Hello there. My name is Cosette Griffin-Kremer, and I want to talk to you today about the French Lily of the Valley festivities that will include the pandemic, a touch of botany, some sustainability, and the beauty of flowers. The name of Convallaria maialis, and of course Linnaeus, is muguet in French. For the May Day holiday, this is the same as the French Labor Day, and one of the May festivals using the flower in the town of Rambouillet. I'll even compare it with another flower festival that has another flower, but above all, I want to celebrate what you see here, the beauty of the May Day, to show how it is used in florist art, and then to talk about its sustainability later on. The lily of the valley is especially known in France as a flower to announce the arrival of spring and for May Day, so you might wonder who buys it, that is, nearly everyone, and who sells it. That's professional florists and street vendors, since this is the only day of the year when street selling is officially permitted in France. It is emblematic of two groups that use its sale to help raise money, the French Red Cross and the French Communist Party. The way the flower is presented to customers can vary greatly from the simplest unwrapped or wrapped by the Red Cross to quite complex bouquets and arrangements, as you see here, potted plants, and then it moves on to the bouquets of all kinds. It is florists who work hard and quickly making bouquets, since all the sales are concentrated right around May Day, and especially on the day. The trends go, as you can see, from the classic rose of romance to novelty combinations with other flowers and floral decoration. We might also remember that the lily of the valley is the emblem of the French designer Christian Dior, so that business, like others, many others, order quite gigantic floral arrangements, much larger than the ones you see here, using the muguet. And Christian Dior still features the flowers in their exclusive designer tableware. It is not florists' work, but the wildflower that is used in the Rambouillet Lily of the Valley festival, called the La Fête du Muguet, in mid-May, which involves many activities, and here are just a few: decorating shop windows, putting up green and white bannerlets, parades to show off the queen and her dauphines, accompanied by the traditional forest hunting group, including hunting horn players, a mass attended by a minority of the general spectators, a garden party where local and even national level political figures express their good wishes. Some events have been eliminated, such as the evening fireworks exhibit in a closed area of the park, which was thought to be too vulnerable to terrorist attacks. But above all, there is the float parade, with figures covered in the flowers and leaves of the lily of the valley. The Fête du Muguet was founded in 1906 by an especially enterprising mayor that you see at the bottom left, although it has antecedents in the late 19th and early 20th century. It has continued until today, but was cancelled in 2020 and 2021 due to the pandemic, as we shall see later. The Lily of the Valley Festival involves electing a queen and 2 dauphines in January of each year, but what I especially want to show you here is their muguet bouquets. These bouquets fit the size of the flower. In fact, they're usually small nosegays, that is, easy to hold in the hand and that keep well, though they are replaced once or twice during the 2 days of festivities. Of course, they've changed over the years, but they always emphasize the colors of green and white. Giving and even showing the flower is traditionally thought to bring good luck or happiness, le bonheur. The Rambouillet festival floats made with the wildflower and its leaves. Here you can see a detail at the top right. But Also, the flower is given by people during all its blossoming time, and people go muguet gathering in the forests where it grows for fun and to bring it to friends or family as a gift. Here is our convallaria in its forest habitat. But many people also have it in their gardens or flower beds, and here you can see how it developed over the year in 2013, though it is far earlier in 2022 due to warm weather in February, March, and April this year. In 2013, top left you can see the old stalks in the snow. Then in the top middle you can see the tiny shoots coming up in front of daffodils. On the top right you can see the April shoots that are just beginning to form little bud-like blossoms. By the bottom left, in April, you can actually see the flowers coming in. In the center, May Day, they were beginning to develop, and by 14th May, they were well developed. But this year, it should be much earlier. There's a worldwide distribution of 3 species of wild convallaria, with some disagreement and debate, as you can easily see here. And it has been introduced to nearly every continent where it can acclimate or be produced. It has even come to be considered an invasive in some parts of the United States. As you can see, for the distribution maps for France or for Great Britain and Ireland, its natural distribution cannot be shown too well on a national scale, but for France, it most definitely is more common in the northeastern half of the country. So, the wildflower is used on the float figures in the Rambouillet Lily of the Valley Festival, which usually had between 8 and 12 floats for the Sunday parade, with marching bands, street dancers, fun fairs, and other attractions. The Rambouillet Festival is charming, but I would like to stress that the scale of the Fête du Muguet is very small compared to perhaps the largest flower festival in Europe, the Bloemencorso in Zundert, in the far south of the Netherlands. If I've gotten the scale right, this goes with the comparison of the flowers, the lily of the valley and the dahlia, and they determine literally, materially, how the flowers can be worked with. What you see at the top here is the festival in Zundert. Simply the size of the dahlias, as compared with the size of the lily of the valley, is also on about the same scale. In preparation of the dahlias for the Bloemencorso, hundreds of people prepare each float, often, as you see here in the very top center, inserting nails into the flowers, into the dahlias, so that the people who attach them need thumb protection to put the flowers onto the floats, and some even use a hammer in some cases. You can make out the heads of the nails in the center detail photographed. On the contrary, in the Rambouillet float building, the tiny flowers and leaves are pasted on, often with the leaves folded in a special way to add texture and depth. The next question is, where do the flowers come from? Individual gathering in Rambouillet, and both gathered and commercially produced flowers are used for May Day in France. Since the lily of the valley is famous for being kept cool until forced to bloom, the quality of the rootstocks is paramount, and the world's best producers are mainly in northern Germany. They are experts in using applied botany in a long-term production process that involves selection by experts of roots that will produce flowers when thawed, as compared to other roots to be replanted for the next growing season. In the center cutaway, you can actually make out the embryonic flowers, and there is even more subtlety involved. An expert tradition has built up since the beginning of the 19th century, so that the finest feelers, often ladies, can distinguish between the plants with a future flower stem and those without. They can also make the distinction between poor bloomers with stems that will blossom from bottom to top, so not all at the same time, and the best quality, when all the bells blossom nearly at the same time. This comes from a long process of observation and sharing of knowledge, either by direct experience or through the many publications such as the classic early 20th century Botanical or the many flower growers' professional magazines over the years. This flood of lily of the valley brings up the question of whether the gathering of the wildflower and the high-end production are sustainable. Economically, for the commercial producers, where there has been much consolidation and many have gone out of business in recent years, and then ecologically for the wild plants. In France, permission to gather the flowers differs from one large region to another and is regulated by the prefecture system according to frequent botanical surveys. But in all cases, for the wildflowers, the official recommendations are always to cut the stems, never to uproot them. Life before the pandemic. As you can see from the customers crowding around the display of May Day muguet. Years ago, it seems, the pandemic hit both commercial operations and individual gathering very hard. For the commercial operations in large supermarkets, and especially for the florists, there has been lots of innovation and resilience, and this seems generally to have been successful, thanks to the use of, this is an English term in French, the drive, like driving into a McDonald's, or click and collect practices. That was possible for individual street sellers. That was impossible for individual street sellers in 2020, but officially permitted again in 2021, although in that case it was each town that could decide on that independently. And bottom right, you say a lifelong individual seller protesting about the prohibition in 2020. As for the festival in Rambouillet, alas, it was cancelled in both 2020 and 2021. During that time, it was adapted and went virtual so that in 2022, the January election of the Queen and Dauphines did not take place during an evening ball with several hundred attendees, a dance band, and music until 1 o'clock in the morning, but in the local cultural center with a small number of participants and only 4 candidates instead of the usual 10 or 12. But all of them were elected to show the town's solidarity with the girls who will represent Rambouillet in 2022. As you can see, people were even able to let their masks down just long enough for the election results and the photographers. In 2020 and 2021, there was considerable effort to keep the festival going virtually, with retrospectives on its recent history on the town television, online interactive games with prizes, and it is now scheduled for mid-May as usual, this year in 2022, though with only 6 floats, the usual music groups, and other events such as the fun fairs. Now, there's a subject that we cannot really touch on here, and that is beauty. This is just to remind you that the lily of the valley, like the lady lilies, is a central feature of much religious and secular art, not to mention the admirable tradition of botanical art. Each of these is an enormous subject in and of itself. Thank you, and with all my best wishes for the Congress, from Cosette.
Yes, thank you so much, Ms. Cosette, for your talk. It is so nice to hear that May Day festivities are slowly going back to normal now, as the world is also going back to normal through initiatives like Click and Collect and the virtual election of the Queen. I'm so happy to know that this May, there are already preparations in play for going back to face-to-face activities. Again, thank you so much, Ms. Cosette, for letting us know the history and background of the flower lily of the valley.
All right, so now we move on to our next speaker, who is the president of Pacific Dialogue Foundation and Technopian Philippines Corporation, Mr. Yavuz Selim Sirinoglu. Respectively, Pacific Dialogue Foundation is a non-stock, non-profit, educational, and cultural foundation established by a group of Filipino and Turkish volunteers in 2011 that seeks to build and foster relationships between and among people of diverse backgrounds. He was also the vice president of this foundation back in 2015 to 2017. While for Technopian Philippines Corporation is a Philippines-based corporation in which he administers as a president since 2013. Additionally, he held other administrative and academic positions. He was the corporate secretary of the Turkish Chamber of the Commerce of the Philippines back in 2014 to 2016, and a lecturer at the Center of International Studies in University of the Philippines, Diliman, for the subject, The Eurasia Melting Pot, an introduction to Turkish culture and society. Let's all give a warm virtual welcome to Mr. Sirinoglu.
Good morning, everybody, and thank you very much for your kind introduction, Gabriel and Dr. Lebe, of course. Thank you for your invitation to take a place in here. Well, as it is mentioned, I'm not a botanist, nor flowers are actually my kind of research topic usually. However, when I received the invitation, if I can talk about it about tulips in Turkey, because we have a festival over there, I gladly accepted it, and I received some documents from my botanist friends, and I did my own research. So I will try to present it as best as I can. Am I allowed to share my screen here? Let me try.
Yes, you may. Yes.
Yes, it is. Okay, so can you see my screen, please? Can you please confirm?
Yes.
All right, perfect. Okay. So I'm supposed to talk about the Tulip Festival happening in Istanbul between April to May. But before we go there, I will tell about why tulip is an important flower in Turkey. What kind of history we have with tulip. And apologies in advance because I will be using the Turkish terms also. So please try to get familiarized with the words. So let's start with the etymology. And first of all, tulip in Turkish means lale. So please keep that in mind because I will be using it, often in my next slides. Well, lale originally is a Farsi word coming from lal, and lal means red actually. And Europeans originally called lale or tulip lily strokes, but according to the notes of Swedish botanist, a scientist, Professor Rudbeck, later on from lily strokes, Europeans or in general Westerners took the tulip from the word, an Ottoman word, tulbent or turban, which means scarf. My next slide, I will be talking about the stories of lale or tulip in mythology. So I will give 3 examples. From Farsi mythology, how the tulip came into the world in the first place. They said there was a dewdrop, a frost, on a leaf, and a lightning fell on the leaf, and the frostbite or the frost or the dewdrop caught on fire, and then again the frost pieces, frozen the fire, froze the fire, and that frozen fire later on became the flower which we know as the tulip nowadays. In Turkish story, there are famous lovers, Ferhat and Shirin. And Shirin, the lady, her parents are the governor in the city, in the town, and they don't allow, these two to be together. And they give a condition to Ferhat to, for them to be together. And they tell the city is scarce, is facing the scarce of water, drought. So bring water from the mountains so you can be together with Shirin. And Ferhat, literally makes a canal, from the mountain to the city. He what do you call that? He gets a shovel and other equipment, and he makes a way for the water to fall, to pass down. However, before he can complete, when he's about to complete, they gave him a false information that Shirin has already passed away from sickness. And so Farhad lives a miserable life from that on, from after that. And he goes on, deserts that he cries for his whole life, for the rest of his life. So that's the legend. And it is said wherever his tears dropped, with all those feelings flowing over, those tears turned into tulip later on. So that's the Turkish version. And in Greek mythology, the famous god of love, Aphrodite, and she has a mortal lover named Adonis, and Adonis bled to death, in arms of Aphrodite, according to legend. And wherever his blood, again fall down, a red flower bloomed, which is also believed to be tulip. All right, so let's talk about the symbols, and I'll try to, categorize them. So if we look at, what tulip colors, symbolizes when we present it to another person. Well, red tulips, as usual, like the roses, they mean the passion of love. And a white tulip means or represents the purity of love. A purple tulip, represents nobility. Yellow tulip is a bit tricky because it could be a good thing or a bad thing, or it can mean joy, or it could mean a hopeless love. And a black tulip, represents rarity. And a striped tulip is presented to a person usually to praise the beauty of their eyes. Aside from that, there is another kind of tulip that's also known as reverse tulip that you can see on the left bottom of the screen. They look down instead of looking at sky, and they symbolize the tears of Mama Mary, the Virgin Mary. And it mostly grows in a place called Hakkari in Turkey. Hakkari is on the southeastern part of Turkey, border to Iraq and Iran. And in Turkish culture, we usually try to interpret our dreams as much as we can remember. And seeing a tulip in your dream usually means a good thing. It means the dreamer, the person who dreams about tulip, has a pure and altruistic heart, a good heart, and he will hopefully find happiness and love soon. All right. So I'll talk about the journey of tulip, where it came from and how did it spread to the world. Well, originally, tulip is seen in Central Asia. And when we look at the Turkish history, that you don't actually see traces of tulips in Rome or during Byzantium time. But when you look at the Seljuk palaces, Seljuk is the first Turkish colony came to Anatolia, or known as Turkey right now. They also migrated from Central Asia to Turkish land. And Seljuk is the first empire we had over there. And when you look at their palaces, tulips are a common motif that you can see around. Well, for those who are into literature, you might be familiar with the poet Mevlana Celaleddin Rumi, and he is also believed to be the first poet who uses tulips, in his poems. Well, when we look at the Ottoman Empire during the time of Selim II, the Sultan Selim II, about 300,000 tulip bulbs are brought from Crimea, which you may nowadays hear on the news, with the Ukrainian war. Excuse me. And after this transfer of 300,000 tulip bulbs, the tulip became a common flower in Istanbul and in Turkey. And when we look at 1520, we see that tulip bulbs were started to hybridize, and different species of tulips are started to be grown. And the first botanist that we know who hybridized the tulips and bloomed them is Şeyhül İslam Ebu Suud Efendi. He is a Muslim scholar, and he is the religious advisor of Süleyman the Magnificent, a very well-known Sultan of Ottoman. And in the 16th century, Süleyman the Magnificent was the one who sent the tulip bulbs as a gift to the Holland king, or the Netherlands, king of Netherlands, for the first time, and that's how, in fact, we know nowadays tulips as a flower in Netherlands, but that's how actually they got the tulips in the first place. And from Netherlands, it spread to Europe and to Canada and eventually to the whole world. Between 16th to 17th century, it is very well known that there were many tulip fields between Istanbul and Edirne. And when we look at Edirne, it's the city we have borderline to Europe nowadays in Turkey. And Evliya Çelebi, a very well-known voyager of Ottoman history, he is said to traveled, walked like every corner of Turkey or Ottoman that time, and he has a famous book, Seyahatname, where he wrote down his notes during his trips, and he noted over there that almost all the houses in Istanbul during his time were growing or blooming tulips. Well, also Sultan Murat IV is said to planted, he said to planted 56 rare species of tulips himself, and some of these tulip bulbs some of these tulips are known to be the only sample of their kinds. Well, also during the Ottoman Empire, between these centuries, 16th to 17th centuries, they even was established an organization named Encümeni Danışık-Şükufe to inspect and register new species of tulips, new kinds of tulips. Well, the next one I will be talking about tulipomania, and in fact, this is interesting. In Netherlands, they profited from the tulips most, and in 1637, because of the high prices of the tulip bulbs, the local stock market broke down, and many people declared bankruptcy because of this, and because most of their economy depended on tulips that time. And this occasion, noted down in the history or known as the first speculative bubble in history in terms of economics. Well, hard to believe, but it is even noted that in many resources it is confirmed. During this period, a tulip bulb cost as much as a house, and some traders even offer hectares of lands in exchange of a single tulip bulb. All right, when we look at the Ottoman history, we have different eras, different periods, like growing period or dormant period, and we also have one period named tulip era. And that's a 12 years of period, and probably this is the only time you cannot see any conflicts or any war in Ottoman history. And that 12th year is said to be the most time of joy and pleasure, and it is not that every house were growing tulips at that time, and that's why it's called tulip era. And according to notes, more than 2,000 species, more than 2,000 kinds of tulips were planted and grouped in this 12 years period. And of course, this kind of lifestyle created some imbalance and some conflicts or complaints from the impoverished community, and they ended this era with a rebellion known as Patrona Halil. And during their rebellion, these poor communities, they destroyed some palaces, they destroyed some of the edifices, some showy buildings and luxuries, and of course also tulip gardens, unfortunately. All right, so now I'll talk about what does tulip mean in Islam or in religion. Well, okay, so in religious scripts for Islam, tulip symbolizes Allah. Allah is the Arabic word for God, that we accepted him. And rose symbolizes Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. I wanted to put it here since it shows another beautiful flower. Okay, here I will be using lale, the Turkish word, more because the research is more on in Turkish actually. So these notes, the religious part, based on the Turkish word. Okay, lale, or sorry, tulips come from the same root as Allah, God, or Hilal, crescent moon, and that's why it's considered holy. And Hilal is also another symbol of Islam, just as Lale. And Hilal is also the flag of Sigil of Ottoman Empire. So here I will try to give you a bit information for Arabic. So you see three words in here: Allah, Hilal, and Lale. So in here there are three characters in here. The first one is Elif or Aleph. The stem looks like one. The second one is L. Well, they might look a bit different according to the place of the characters in the word. However, these three are actually, the same characters. Elif is A or A usually. Lam, Le or La, and H, Allah. So Elif, Hilal, and Lale, even though there is a H in here, it's not pronounced. It just makes you prolong the last character. So La, Le, that's why we prolong the Lale over there. So A, L, H, they all make these three words, Allah, Hilal, and Lale. And that's why they are all, because they're all sharing the same root as Allah. Hilal and Lale, crescent moon, and tulips are also common figures for Islam, and that's why they are accepted as the same value, the word of Allah. Okay, well, when we look at the numbers of petals, original tulip has 6 petals that you can count, and these 6 petals is said to represent the 6 pillars of Islam, which are believe in one God, believe in the prophets, believe in the holy books, believe in the angels, believe in destiny, and believe in the judgment day. So these 6 pillars are practically are associated with the 6 petals of tulip. And the 6th verse of the first chapter of Quran, chapter Fatiha, which we Muslims recite 40 times a day during our prayers, says, "Oh God, please guide us along the straightforward path," just like the straightforward stem of a lale or tulip. And if you look at the what do you call them, the leaves of the tulip, they also look like they're opening their hands towards the sky, like prayers, like the way we open our hands during a prayer. And that is also why it is said lale looks like reciting the 6th verse of the first chapter of Quran. He is also, or it is also praying in the same way to stay on the straightforward path. All right. And also I show you the character a while ago, the first character of Allah, which is Elif. I told you it looks like a straightforward stem. And yeah, it is also why tulip is symbolizing Allah, because the stem of tulip looks in a similar way. All right. Another notes telling us or showing us, we have the whirling dervishes who are dancing in a trance, for their religious belief, and the way they whirl, turn around, or the way they dance and ask for prayer is, they are asking with one hand from God, with their humble stance, with a leaned or a bended neck, and with the other hand they're giving it to community. And in here, the first picture, the one on the left side, you can see tulip sometimes also looks like the same. They also have a bended neck or a leaned on neck. So that's why they also say, like, a tulip or a lale is also presenting his humble self in front of the creator. And in graveyard stones, a tulip figure is commonly known or commonly seen because, as I said, tulip is one of the represent what do you call a symbol of Allah, of the God. And in Selimiye Mosque, which is one of the greatest structures in Istanbul, built by the famous architect Sinan, in Edirne, the city bordering to Europe, it is covered with tiles, and 99 of those tiles are showing a lale figure, a tulip figure, and 99 number is chosen because we give 99 attributions, or we have 99 names for the gods. So that's why they also use 99 tulip motifs on their walls, and one of them is the reverse tulip that I showed you a while ago. All right, so let's take a look at the tulip in art, and it is a common thing. We see tulip in many forms of art, and for centuries, you can see them in mosques, in palaces, in over fountains, or in other structures, or you can see them on carpets or tiles, like I showed you a while ago, or it's very common also on emperors or on sultans, clothes, on their shoes or on their boots. And it is also very common to be used in teshib art, which is illuminated manuscript, and ebru, which is water marbling. And I'd like to show you a short video of of this example, how ebru is made. I will play it very fast to save time. I hope it doesn't bother you. So this is actually a traditional art in Istanbul, in Turkey. I hope you can see my screen, the video playing.
Yes, we see the video.
All right, great. Thank you very much for the confirmation. So the flower shapes they make are very common, and I think tulip might be the basic one, because every time we see an ebru art, tulip shape is there for sure. I'll fast forward it a bit so we can see it in shorter time. All right. So I just wanted to share, one sample of, water marbling, with tulip shape. And as I said, if ever you have a chance to go to Turkey, in touristical places, you might see an example, a live example of that probably. All right. Next and lastly, I will be talking about the Tulip Festival happening in Istanbul. Originally, or the first time, it was started by the Istanbul City Hall in 2005, and ever since they have been organizing it annually between April to May in a place called Emirgan Park. That's Sarıyer part of Istanbul, if ever you have a chance to go there. And during the festival, they present more than 120 species of tulips and other flowers, not just tulips. And for the recent years, estimated number of tulip bulbs planted is more than 30 million, as far as I was able to find out. And of course, it's an attraction not just for the local but also for international tourists. And as a matter of fact, when I had my Korean friends, visiting me in Istanbul back in 2011, it happened to take place in April, so we had a chance to go and see this festival together. But a note for that, it lasts long for 4 weeks. But however, after second week, some of the flowers have already started, withering. So the best time to see them is probably the first 2 weeks of the festival. However, it doesn't apply to 2022 because the climate change has really affected the weather, and even in April, normally we shouldn't be seeing snow anymore. It should be done by the first 2 weeks of March, but this year they seen snow until the end of March. So the flowers, as far as I've read, tulips only bloomed like almost like third and fourth week of April. So unfortunately, this year the festival hasn't been very successful, but hopefully, if you have chance, in following years, I would recommend you to visit at a normal time, second or third week of April, to be sure. So some pictures from the festival. Unfortunately, I couldn't find my own pictures, so I will just be showing you whatever I was able to find online. So these are what I have, and I will be finishing my presentation with a joke, with a quote. So roses are red, but tulips are quirky, and don't go to Holland and see them in Turkey. So that's what I can say. And thank you very much for the invitation and listening me, and I hope you enjoyed it.
All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Selim. That was a really insightful presentation with regards to tulips in Turkey. And I was really captivated by the artistical, historical, cultural, and even economical value of tulips during for Turkey, for the Turkish people. And because of that, tulips are actually my favorite species of flower. So I was really enticed with it. And with that, my appreciation for tulips grew. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Salam. Honestly, I really like tulips as well, and I really want to see like a bed of tulips someday in my life. So now I know where to go, and that's Turkey. So thank you so much, Mr. Salam. Okay, so now I think we can move on to our next speaker. So our next speaker is Ms. Bernadette Escalona Cooper, the founder and chairman of the Global Artists Creative Collaboration for Empowerment, or GACCE, USA, the first and only PhilAm-initiated state-registered art organization considered as an influencer for the arts. She possesses a bachelor's degree in fine arts, master's degree in instructional technology, and a doctorate degree. Her exposure in the academe, local and international, schools, colleges, and universities of fine arts and the art circle has given her a solid foundation to be an authority in the field of arts. She's an author, researcher, speaker, and a faculty member, thesis and dissertation panel member, and a school administrator. She's a well-sought curator and a member of the AAMC, or the Association of American Museum Curators. From 2012 to present, she's a resident artist for the Alameda Artwork Studios in San Jose, California, the largest hub for Bay Area artists, a project director of Face the Race project under the New York Foundation for the Arts, a commissioner and advisory board member of the Social Services Commission, Santa Clara County in California, USA. So again, let's welcome our next speaker, Ms. Bernadette Escalona Cooper.
Hi, good day again, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in different parts of the world. Can I share my presentation?
Yes, yes, Miss.
Okay, so let me, it's not open yet. I need to open my, oh gosh. Hang on a second. Can I just open my file? I need to go out. I need to go out. Okay, there you go. There you go. Okay. I don't know if you can see it. Yeah. Can you see it?
We can see it now, Miss.
But it's something, it's not the full screen. How do I put this in
Not
full
yet.
screen? Okay.
At the bottom part of the screen there by beside the magnifying
Slideshow.
I might screw up.
Or you can press slideshow and yeah, press slideshow. Yes, and
There.
Where is it at? I cannot see. It's not showing here.
In the lower part, you can look into the lower right also. There are the last button before the size of the last button. It's a slideshow prompt also there.
Is that the one?
No, ma'am. The one on your
the one encircled.
The one there.
Okay, there you go. So, oh, what happened again? Okay, so good afternoon, good evening, all the greetings in the world. It's good evening here in California, this part of USA. This afternoon, I was tasked to present a narration of Rose Flower Festival in the USA. Okay, that was the title that was given to me. But let me give you a backgrounder of what this is all about. The Rose Flower Festival happens in different parts of the states of United States of America, but were given different names. But it emanated from, or it was born in a place called Pasadena, California, where the Rose Flower Parade Festival was born. Okay. Now, in San Jose, it was given another name. I would like to zero in with San Jose, California, because that's where I am. And then maybe a little later on, I'm going to give you a profile of how it came about to be Rose Flower Festival. Okay, here in California, the Rose Flower Festival is known as Rose, White, and Blue, 4th of July Parade, San Jose, California. The significance of this parade or festivity is very important to the history of San Jose, considering that they have been dealing with roses as theme in most of the festivals and even entertainments and even what activities you have here in California. To sum them all up, it has been 120 years already Okay, so the main objective of this Rose, White, and Blue 4th of July Festival is family-friendly, what do you call this? Family-friendly parade, which combines two themes called Independence and the Roses. This is a way of remembering and honoring the rich history of San Jose neighborhood. Now, that neighborhood that is being mentioned here is called the Rose Garden neighborhood or the Alameda neighborhood in San Jose. Okay. A person named Larry Clark, an expert on the historic district of San Jose's Rose Garden neighborhood, revived this tradition of the Rose Parade, which has its beginnings in 1896, but it did not begin here in San Jose. It began in Pasadena. Okay, so this is how the parade would look like. They have banners, they have flags, but in each of the carriages and the cars, they have roses decorated on each of the vehicles. Now, why roses, not any other flowers? You would think that roses are very important. To tell you honestly, roses grows everywhere here in California, even in your own backyard. Not only in California, actually in the whole of the United States. And so the rose became the national flower of the United States, but not California. There is still a state flower. The California state flower is known as poppy. Okay, but it's not as popular as the rose because the rose has been used to highlight any festivities here in the United States and California. Now, let us go back to the history of this Rose Parade festival. In 1890, the Valley Hunt Club members, led by Charles Frederick Holder, sponsored the so-called first tournament of roses in Pasadena, in California. Now, why is it called the Tournament of Roses? Thinking that there is an abundance of flowers, specifically roses, in California, they thought that, the club thought that, why don't we highlight and showcase the abundance of these flowers so that in the Tournament of Roses, upon entrance, they would be seen, they would highlight the abundance of roses, the different species of roses. And all these roses have been decorated in all the carriages and roses and cars during that time. Now, come 1896, it was not until after 6 years that the Parade of Roses was created in San Jose, and they called that during that time the first Rose Carnival. So this Rose Carnival was a 4-day celebration of San Jose's festivity known as selecting the Rose Queen. I saw the presentation in France a while ago. And I would recall that this holds true in the Philippines also. In 1908 until the 1930s, there was this carnival queen that they had. I saw that in the picture of my aunt. My aunt was a carnival queen. And so all of these festivities have been duplicated, have been imitated for one reason, to bind the community together. Okay, so in 1896, it was a 23-year-old girl by the name of Lillian Rhea who was declared as the first Rose Queen in the first Rose Carnival in San Jose. Come 1901, the city of San Jose planned a Rose theme parade in honor of President McKinley, who visited that year. And the entire Alameda district, where the Rose Garden community is, had their float and their cars covered with roses. Where do they get the rose and the roses? Okay, that is a question. No problem, because they grow that even in the backyards of their communities before. And as a matter of fact, there was a public garden wherein which they cultivate the flowers, more specifically roses. And that was the start of breeding the different varieties of roses. Okay. In 1926, was given another name, and they call it that time the Fiesta de las Rosas, a Spanish theme about roses also. So what happened during this Fiesta de las Rosas? The schoolyards and street corners alike, all of them were decorated with roses, flags, and banners. And then thousands of roses have been planted. Thousands of roses have been planted, and that was the start. So giving meaning to the parade that the Santa Clara Valley was the rose garden of the world. And you would be surprised what happened after that. And so the parade boasted 87 floats, 10 bands, 200 mounted riders on a variety of decorated cars. So decorated cars, mostly decorated with roses. About 250,000 spectators were attracted to this grand floral parade. And so it has also become tourist attraction. In 1927, this is what I'm saying, they planted, they bred different varieties of roses. The Rose Garden was founded, okay? What was the Rose Garden? It's a 5.5-acre gated garden community of 4,000 roses and over 200 varieties. Now, as you can see there, that is the marker now. The public garden was enclosed in a gate, and it became a historic landmark. So in 1931, the municipal rose garden was institutionalized. The San Jose Heritage Rose Garden was unexpectedly a jewel in the midst of urban center of the city. It is here. This is where I live. This is the area where I live. And it's a huge garden of 5.5, in which it is in the middle of the city itself. Okay, so that in 1969, the Fiesta de las Rosas ended, and who knows what happened after that. So there was a lull there. However, this is the Rose Garden now. This is the landscape of the Rose Garden, which is a historic landmark. This is where most of the festivities which has something to do with roses, when they wanted to highlight the roses, this is where they would get it, aside from the roses that they would grow in their gardens and in different backyards. Okay, so this is how the rose garden would look like inside. Okay, this is the reason why there are parades, there are festivities, there are festivals, because of the different varieties of roses. Okay. This is also part of the rose garden, which grows the different varieties of roses. As you can see on the left side, it's a huge landscapes wherein there are different varieties of roses grown in different areas of the whole garden. And the seat, if you wanted to have a picnic there, you can sit on the ground, and the vacant seat there, and the entrance at the back on your right. Okay, I'm not going to acknowledge anybody on these pictures because these are my personal pictures, which I have taken just recently, because I took specifically a picture of that chair where my mom and I used to sit together. My mom just passed away, and so it was nostalgic for me to go back every so often to the Rose Garden, because that's my mom's favorite hangout. Okay, going back to Pasadena, it all started with what we call Rose Bowl game. So what is a Rose Bowl game? The Rose Bowl game is an annual American college football ball game, usually celebrated on January 1st, which is a New Year's Day, at the Rose Bowl in Pasadena, California. What is a ball? A Rose Bowl. It is a concave-shaped stadium where the ball game is held. Okay, it's an open field. Now, the Rose Bowl, before its festivities, the organizers then thought of the Tournament of Roses, also in Pasadena. So they were thinking like, why don't we make a festival before the Rose Bowl game so people would come and enjoy and be entertained? And so the Tournament of Roses. So the parade was the parade was not anything else but about roses. They would like to showcase the different kinds of roses and varieties. And until such time, they named it Rose Parade, and that is what it is named now. Now, the Rose Parade, where did they get the roses now? The different carriage and different floats have been ostentatious in their design, and then highlighting and what you call this, immersing the roses. And so it is a narrative of who the float is all about and what the float is all about. So there is a story there, but most of the decorations there were roses. So this time, probably the roses are not enough to cover the entire float, which is ostentatiously displayed. And so Pasadena now, they import different flowers and roses from different countries. So they don't only put roses in their floats and carriage, but they also include the different varieties of flowers, but without taking away the name of the rose as the Rose Parade. Okay. Now, this is an example of how the Rose Parade would look like now. So I would like to what do you call this, quote where I got it from, because I don't have my actual picture of the Rose Parade. You see how ostentatious it is now? So it is not about roses anymore. It is about the parade of the different sectors in the community who would like to participate, highlight who they are and what they do. But of course, the roses are still there, and the roses are now the different kinds of flowers. Another showcase of the float. Look. So it tells a story. It's not about the rose anymore, but it tells a story of who participated there, but still being garnished with the different roses and the different flowers, because that's where the name come from, and that is what they celebrate before the Rose Bowl game. Okay, next, you have there how ostentatious the floats would become every year. Last year, the Rose Parade did not celebrate anything because of the lockdown and the advent of what we call COVID. But the roses has continuously become endemic. Anywhere you go, there are roses. And roses you can grow very easily in the kind of weather that we have here in California, specifically because this is what you call the Golden State, and they wanted that kind of weather in California. Now, so going back again to Rose, White, and Blue 4th of July parade, the Rose Parade that happens in different parts or some of the states here in America is given a name. And usually they would attach that into a larger celebration of a national holiday. Here in San Jose, they would celebrate it during the 4th of July, which is the Independence Day of America. The Rose Bowl parade, the Rose Parade in Pasadena, they would celebrate that on January 1st, usually on New Year's Day. And I think there's one in Colorado, in Denver, and some other states. They would call it another name, and they would attach it to a national holiday so that it is given more emphasis and highlight of what they would like to present and share a story to the community. Now, the historic here in San Jose, the historic community celebration brings the different residents, businesses, and organizations here in San Jose and the Greater Bay Area. Now, it is nothing short of expressing that the celebration itself is a celebration of diversity, public spirit, city's floral and agricultural heritage. So aside from celebrating heritage, the heritage of a particular place or city or state, it is also celebrating diversity, because America is highly diversified. It does not belong to the white, it does not belong to the black, it does not belong to the brown, but everybody is here. Okay, so that is the intent of the celebration of the Rose Parade. Still, it's about flowers, but the flowers has something to say about the different narratives that each float and presentation would like to show to the public. So with that said, I would like to make mention of the word floriography. In the 1920s or earlier than that year, they adopted during the Victorian period, the word floriography. They use flowers to communicate. And with that communication, each person, especially a man and a woman, would understand what that communication indicates with the kind of flower that the man gives the woman or the woman gives a man. So there is a hidden meaning in all of the flowers that we see, but in the USA, there is a deeper meaning of what the roses are all about, and that is the diversity of the United States of America. With that said, I would like to end my presentation. I hope you learned something from what I have presented. Good day again, and thank you to all the organizers, and thank you for inviting me and considering me for this international conference. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Miss Bernadette. You know, Rose, I mean, I'm sure you know po, since Pinoy kahin po, you know, rose is one of the most common flowers you see here in the Philippines, especially during special occasions like Valentine's or birthdays. So it's very, very interesting to hear and learn more about its cultural and social significance there in California. So again, thank you so much, Miss Bernadette.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, now we move on to our next speaker, and he is our last rather. Mr. Sushil Sriwastava is a BTech chemical engineer and MBA in marketing from the prestigious institute in Asia. He has worked in India, Malaysia, the Philippines, and Dubai, UAE with Fortune 500 companies. He is a serial entrepreneur, art collector, and angel investor. Due to his passion in the fine art, he ventured into art business. He has organized many art shows and art camps in India, Malaysia, Dubai, New York, and Singapore. He has a wide collection of Indian contemporary and modern art. He does not have any formal education in art, but due to his voracious reading and research habits, he has in-depth knowledge about Indian and European art. He is in the art business since 2008, working as art consultant, and his company, Art International, which is a leading contemporary art company based in India. Art International has participated in many art fairs and has organized many art exhibitions in India and abroad. It is my pleasure to present Mr. Sriwastava.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to everyone from India, Philippines, and other countries based on the time zone. It's a great opportunity for me to be one of the speakers in this International Flores de Mayo Festival and Conference 2022. I'm really thankful to Miss Bing Famoso and Dr. Hani Achanzar for giving me this opportunity. Due to COVID-19 pandemic, for last 2 years, most of the events were organized either virtually or being cancelled all over the globe. The flower festivals are well celebrated in India, and some of the flower festivals are one of the largest festival in Asia. For last 2 years, those festivals were organized virtually and dedicated to corona fighters. This year in 2022, all those festivals are happening physically and would be well celebrated in India. I would like to discuss a few important flower festivals that is happening every year in India. The Tulip Festival, Srinagar, the Rose Festival, Chandigarh, the Flower Show, Uti, Dasara Flower Show, Mysore, International Flower Festival, Gangtok, Cherry Blossom Festival, Shillong, Lal Bagh Flower Show, Bangalore. I would like to discuss all these flower festivals one by one in this speech. The Tulip Festival, Srinagar, India, that is happening every year at Indira Gandhi Tulip Garden, Srinagar. The time is March and April of every year for 15 days. Indira Gandhi Memorial Tulip Garden is Asia's largest garden of tulips. Visiting this garden during the flower festival, one will witness around 70 kinds of tulips, namely standard tulips, double bloom, parrot tulips, fringe tulips, bicolor standard tulips, Rembrandt, lily flowering tulips, along other flowers. The beautiful backdrop of snow-capped mountains and breathtaking Dal Lake makes the overall viewing experience unforgettable. The other festival is the Rose Festival, Chandigarh, that happens every year at Zakir Hussain Rose Garden, Chandigarh. The time is February, and this event happens for 3 days every year. The 40-acre rose garden is planted with 800 plus different varieties of roses. It has hybrid tige rose, miniature rose, climber rose, green rose, blue rose, black rose, and more. One of the highlights of the flower show are roses named after famous world personalities, countries, states, fruits, etc. So one will find a rose named after Zakir Hussain, who was the former Indian president, Queen Elizabeth, John F. Kennedy, Delhi, America, apricot, cherry, and so on, making viewing the flowers a lot more fun and interesting. The next I would like to discuss the flower show that happens every year at Uti. Uti, there is a government botanical bird garden, and that this event happens in the month of May every year for 3 days. The flower show displays around 93 kinds of flowers and 42 kinds of potted flowering plants. The flowers on display are carnations, gerberas, liliums, alstroemeria, tulips, iris, orchids, dahlias, among others. The highlight of the show, apart from the displayed flowers, are eye-catching installations made from flowers, spices, vegetables, and fruits. You will also get to enjoy cultural and musical events and an opportunity to participate in various flower decoration competitions, etc. etc. The next flower show I would like to discuss is Dasara Flower Show that happens every year at Nisad Bagh, Mysore. And this flower show is organized every year in the month of September or October for 12 days. Marvel at huge varieties of roses and orchids displayed artistically along with flower concepts like ikebana, etc. Another major attraction of this show are beautiful formations made from flowers like the lotus temple, tree house, dolphins, etc. One can enjoy musical fountains, flower arrangement, competition, food festival, art exhibition, elephant processions, and a lot more. International Flower Festival always happens at Gangtok in India in the month of April or May every year for 30 days. This is considered one of the best and must-see flower festivals in India. The White Hall in Gangtok at this time is an array of colors and indescribable beauty with rare and great varieties of native orchids, rhododendrons, magnolias, gladioli, foliage, and ferns on display. There are traditional Sikkimese dances, local arts and crafts exhibitions, whitewater rafting, local food festivals, yak safari, and lots more. Every year, more than 300,000 visitors visit for this festival. Always happens at Gangtok in India in the month of April or May every year for 30 days. This is considered one of the best and must-see flower festivals in India. The White Hall in Gangtok at this time is an array of colors and indescribable beauty with rare and great varieties of native orchids, rhododendrons, magnolias, gladioli, foliage, and ferns on display. There are traditional Sikkimese dances, local arts and crafts exhibitions, whitewater rafting, local food festivals, yak safari, and lots more. Every year, more than 300,000 visitors visit for this International Flower Festival. The next I would like to discuss about Cherry Blossom Festival that happens every year in the month of November in Shillong, India. Every year in November, the streets of Shillong are a striking spectacle thanks to the fully bloomed cherry blossom trees. This festival is also celebrated in Japan and United States. This festival features guided night walks, fashion shows, rock concerts, stalls showcasing local food, wine and craft, and even Japanese cultural events. So these are the very, very important flower festivals that is happening every year in India. The other flower festivals that I would like to discuss is Lal Bagh Flower Show that happens every year in the month of Bangalore, in the month of you can say like January and August in Bangalore in India. This flower festival happens twice in a year on Republic and Independence Day of India. Both events are held for a week time during the month of January and August every year. On display are over 1,000 species of well-maintained tropical plants, spell-binding flower arrangements, some of which are in the shape of palisades, monuments, royal animals, and more based on the patriotic theme of the events. In 2019, Lal Bagh Flower Show was based on Mahatma Gandhi owing to his 150th birth anniversary. So I have discussed around 7 important flower festivals that is happening every year in India. But these are not only like festivals that is happening in India. There are some other festivals also happens in India apart from these festivals, and those festivals are celebrated every year in a special community, tribal community, something like that in India. But these are not only like festivals that is happening in India. There are some other festivals also happens in India apart from these festivals, and those festivals are celebrated every year in a special community, tribal community, something like that, such as Sarhul or Basant Mahotsav that happens every year in Jharkhand. The flowers are very important and they're used in different functions in India every day, such as for worshipping purpose, in wedding functions, or welcoming someone, or showing respect, etc., etc. Flowers are also play a vital role in the art. At international level, we can find many well-known artists, starting from Renaissance to modern to contemporary. They have used flower paintings and depicted flowers to show love, compassion, respect, peace, and tranquility. In our upcoming International Art Exhibition in Malaysia in May 2022, some of the artists from different countries such as Malaysia, Philippines, Singapore, and India, they have made flower paintings to display. So finally, I would like to give my sincere thanks to organizer of this international conference, and I would like to give my best wishes to them for a very successful event. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Sridwastwa, for your informative presentation when it comes to flora in India. I know that India is a very rich, has very rich in flora and nature, and I would be really interested to someday visit your country. And with that, from our last speaker, we can now proceed with the Q&A portion of the plenary.
Yes, okay. So for our speakers from that plenary, we have here Mr. Selim and Ms. Bernadette Cooper, yes, who are with us here live. Okay, so we actually have a question for Mr. Selim. Okay, let me just read the question here. Okay, so thank you, Selim, for such a wonderful talk. May we know for what reason or reasons would buyers buy a tulip for the price of 5 hectares? So I think you mentioned that in your talk earlier.
Well, yes, because as I mentioned, Holland or Netherlands profited from tulips most that time, and I think if you buy a tulip bulb in exchange of some lands, then you can grow more tulips, and practically that can bring you business. So economy was more on relying on the tulips that time. So I think that's the practical reason over there. So I give you land, you give me the seed, so I can plant in another place, and I can grow more of them, so I can be rich as well. So as far as I read, that's the reason.
All right, thank you so much, Mr. Selim. I think that did answer the question from our audience. Okay, so for the next question, I think Gab, there's a question from Ms. Bernadette.
All right, I'll read a question from the audience for Miss Bernadette. So, Miss Bernadette, outside the Rose Flower Festival, do roses have a place in the day-to-day life of California residents?
Can you repeat the last sentence of the last set? Yeah.
Yes,
the last line of the question, please.
No problem. So, do roses have a place in the day-to-day life of California residents?
Oh, yes. Every day, even myself, we always have fresh flowers on the table because we only get that from the garden. So the rose plays a very, very significant part in the lives of the people here in California and the United States, because it's something that brings a different aura when you are there, when the roses are there. And more importantly, the roses are the ones that serve a welcoming day for the people in the house if they get something from the garden. So they pick the roses only from the garden. And then aside from that, even if they go to the park or that rose garden or anywhere you go, there's always an abundance of roses. And the small roses that we have in the Philippines, for instance, those, and then we we make that into a band to make it a bouquet. Here, those small roses seem to be wildflowers only. So that's how it is. So yes, there are always roses on the table in every household if they have a garden in the backyard.
Yes, I can see that roses are really significant in the lives of California residents, and I do agree that that roses have a really aesthetic value in anywhere they can.
Mm-hmm.
So we have another question. So Charisse, you may take the sword.
Before that, we would like to acknowledge Mr. Sushil Srivatswa, who's also here with us today, so he can also answer your questions if you have more questions. So actually, now we have a question for all three of our speakers. So to Ms. Bernadette, to Mr. Selim, and to Mr. Sushil, what advice can you give to the people here in the Philippines so that they can emulate the country you represent when it comes to the development of flora? So again, what advice can you give the people here in the Philippines so that they can emulate the country you represent when it comes to the development of flora? So who would like to answer first? Maybe Ms. Bernadette?
grow flowers in your backyard and even in your front yard. It's something that will not only give the aesthetic value, but it's something that will represent the place as a place that is being well kept, and then a place that will emulate peace. Flowers emulate peace, and flowers are something that can bring good what they call this a good feeling, actually a good feeling in anywhere, in any occasions, or in anywhere you go. You always give flowers, their birthday, flowers for birthdays, flowers for Mother's Day, for funeral, graduation, etc., etc., because the flower speaks all kinds of emotions. So if you can at least plant flowers in your backyards and your front yard, that is something that will really speak of some good emotions, good vibes. It brings good vibes.
Thank you, Miss Bernadette. So who would like to go next, Mr. Salim or Mr. Sushil?
Yeah, I would like to advise that everyone should grow and plant the flowers as much as possible. And if it is possible to include in your daily activities, so it would be better. For example, in India, like whenever there is any kind of function, so we include flowers, rose flowers or lily flowers. So depending upon the situation, we include those kind of flowers to celebrate wedding functions or to host someone or to respect someone. So something like that, it can be done also in the Philippines. And I found that in the Philippines, those kind of flowers are available and those kind of flowers are used also. So this kind of activities should be also involved in day-to-day operation, something like that. So this is my advice to if like you're talking about like going for the emulation, whatever we are doing in India, so it can be done also in the Philippines. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sushil. How about you, Mr. Salim?
Well, I'm not a botanist, but I can say from my experiences that I've been in the Philippines for 9 years, and I love the country, to be honest. Like, the culture, the atmosphere, the nature here. As long as I can go out Manila. So, as a common person who is living in Manila, I usually complain like, how we have, little amount of green or parks in here. I stayed in South Korea as an exchange student, and I remember there was a flower park over there. They even put up games over there that you have to look for secret stems, in hidden in gardens, hidden in between flowers and everything. So we used to go there with my college friends, and we participate in activities over there. In Turkey, we talked about tulip gardens, the festival over there. And Netherlands, of course, very well known for their gardens, for their picture takings and everything. Disneyland, same thing, doing the same thing. I remember in Changi airport in Singapore, there was a garden for sunflowers, and sadly, I cannot think of any landmark like this in Philippines, or at least in Manila. I hope it's not inappropriate for me to name a place in here, but the closest place I can think of with flowers is Sonia's garden in Tagaytay, and it's always traffic to go there. But when I visited there, I especially love I can see some variety of flowers over there. Unless I can go to province, so I hope that there might be a landmark, a significant place in central Manila also, or maybe there is, and I don't know. So if that's the case, please let me know, and that we can say this is a good place to visit, to see different kinds of varieties of flowers that we can see that they grow in the Philippines. I know the city is crowded, and there may not be enough place around, but perhaps UP can spare some space. To grow such a project, and I will definitely be one of the first ones to visit the flower and take pictures probably over there.
Thank you so much, Mr. Salim, and to Miss Bernadette and to Mr. Sushil. So to the Pinoys and the Pinays here, you heard it from them. If you guys want tips on how to really emulate, the culture of the rich culture of floral traditions here in Manila, then you know what to do. Okay, thank you again so much to our speakers. So we have one last question. So it is for Miss Bernadette Cooper. So Miss Bernadette Cooper, so this is from Miss Celia Bonilla. So I saw Yellow Rose, a film starring Filipinos Eva Noblezada, Princess Punzalan, and Lea Salonga, though it was set in Texas. Metaphorically, it stood for the Filipina girl finding her place in the US. But are there really yellow rose in Texas?
Yes. There are, as I have shown also, there are also yellow roses here, as I have shown in my presentation. That's one of the species being grown here. As a matter of fact, the biggest rose that is grown in that rose garden happens to be the yellow rose. It's true. It's true. Because in the Philippines, maybe the reason why she asked that, is she from the Philippines? Is she from the Philippines? Yeah,
yes.
Okay. Kasi sa Philippines, if you see different colors of flowers, the roses are only, what they call this, usually colored either red or pink, but the other colors seem to be very unnatural because in the Philippines, just like if you buy flowers from Dangwa and you see different colors, those are dyed flowers. Here you don't dye the flowers. You grow the different species and the different colors of the flowers. Yes, there are yellow roses.
Thank you for that.
Thank you so much, Miss Bernadette. All right, so that ends our Q&A portion for this plenary session. So again, to our speakers, thank you so much for your time. It's amazing to see the similarities among the floral traditions and cultures from the different parts of the world. We have the May Queen, the Rose Queen, the Capitana, the floral parade, displays and shows. Flowers really are an excellent source of tangible and intangible cultural heritage all around the world. And we are fortunate enough to have witnessed this morning. So before we proceed with the next segment, we at the Faura Project would like to show our appreciation to our speakers through the Certificate of Appreciation. So allow me to read the citation. Okay, so the Faura Project Incorporated with Philippine Botanical Art Society and the University of the Philippines, Manila present the Certificate of Appreciation to Cosette Griffin Kramer for speaking on French Lily of the Valley festivities, to Yavuz Salem Sironoglu for speaking on Istanbul Tulip Festival, to Bernadette Escalona Cooper for speaking on Rose Flower Festival, and to Sushil Sriwastwa for speaking on Indian Flower Festival, given the second day of May 2022 during the conference plenary on World Floral Festivals during the 2022 International Flores de Mayo Festival and Conference, signed by Dr. Honey Libertine Achanzar-Labor, Miss Willa Famosotakan, and Professor Alice Adeva. So again, thank you so much to our speakers. So may we ask you please to turn on your camera so that we can take a quick picture to commemorate this event. Yes. So Mr. Sushil and Miss Bernadette, you can turn on your cameras. Yes, okay, let me just add you to that spotlight. Okay, so let's smile. 1, 2, 3, smile. Oh, again, another one. 1, 2, 3, smile. All right, thank you so much to our speakers.
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, so now we are at the tail end of our morning session. And for this part of the program, we would like to let you guys know about what we have in store for you guys for the rest of the week. Okay, so let me present the week-long festival to you guys at this portion of this program. Okay, so I think we can skip through the parts that already happened. So we can skip through the morning part of the day one. So next slide, please. Okay, but later on this afternoon at 2:15 p.m., we have the Celebrating Heroes and Heritage Endemic Flowers. So I won't be spoiling you about what we have in store for you guys later, but I guess just as a teaser, we have Dr. Rosario Rubita here with us right now, who will also be the session chair and the session moderator for later session. So guys, be excited, especially for the UP Manila students here. You know Dr. Rubita and you know how excellent she is, especially in terms of endemic flowers. So yes, we are very excited for that. And then for tomorrow, we have the second part of this series. So the Celebrating Heroes and Heritage, Painting and Myth Advocates, and then the third part of this series, the Dance Advocates. So wow, from the flowers that we discussed today, we're moving on to the Painting and Myth Advocates and then Dance Advocates. But of course, at the core of these sessions is still, our theme for this Flores de Mayo festival, which is still the flora, still the traditions that we have here in the country and outside the country. Okay, so next slide, please. And for day 3, we have the on-site painting exhibit entitled Celebrating Native Flowers in the Time of the Pandemic. So this is actually, as I said, this is on-site, so this will be done face-to-face. This will be in the Unimart of Capital Commons in Pasig, if I'm not mistaken. So this will be at 2 p.m. But for those who can't make it, we will be live on Facebook on Wednesday at 2 p.m. so that you can watch the exhibit opening with us. Okay, so this is in collaboration with Artist Space and the Philippine Botanical Artist Society. So for day 4, this is a lot of people's favorite part of our week-long festival. So on day 4, we will be having our painting and crafting endemic flowers workshop. So yes, we will be painting and we will be sketching, we will be drawing endemic flowers on Thursday. So this is again in partnership with the Philippine Botanical Artist Society. So I think Miss Bing Famoso was here with us earlier, but I don't think she's here anymore. But yes, she will be one of the workshop artists with us on Thursday. Okay, and on day 5, which is our closing program, our last day of the week-long festival, we will be having our Dress Up Santa Cruzan. So that's a very exciting event, and we also started that actually last year. So as Professor Achanzar-Labor mentioned earlier, it's kind of like a fashion show. It's our version of the Santa Cruzan, the online version of the Santa Cruzan. So you can expect to see very exciting and very interesting outfits from our participants on Friday. And of course, along with this, we'll also be premiering the Memories of Faura and the Faura Trails videos also on Friday. So yes, that's it for our week-long festival, and we can't wait to have all of you there in all of the activities that we have for the rest of the week. So for all the online activities, we will be using the same Zoom link. So if you already have the one for today, then you can already access the ones for the next month. Okay, so now to cap off our morning session, let me call on again Professor Honey Libertine Achanzar-Labor for the plenary closing.
All right, so this time live. So yes, thank you all for joining us in this morning opening and plenary sessions. No? So in this year's Flores de Mayo Festival and Conference, and in the years to come, we continue and will continue to promote local heritage, maybe the intangible cultural heritage of the Flores de Mayo, endemic flora, as well as art and craft production, which promote heritage. No? But this year, we see that we saw that we share our much valued local heritage to participants from different parts of the globe. as we also provide them a platform to showcase milestone, not only for us in the Faura project, but also for everyone who has been supporting our cause all throughout this year. So thank you all for your continued support, and particular thanks to this morning's speakers who have graciously accepted our invite to join us in our annual promotion of local heritage and its conservation. So special thanks for speakers representing France, Turkey, India, and the US. For Mr. Salim and also for Mr. Sushil to show us that not only are we representing flowers of different countries, but also that flowers are actually things of worship. That just in the Philippines we have the Flores de Mayo, which is a Christian event. We also have we see how tulips in Turkey is also symbolic of Allah, so it's also very much in tune with the Islamic belief. And Mr. Sushil also mentioned earlier, how flowers in India are actually objects for worship. So thank you for that. So to show the different dimensions of our celebrating flowers. But not only do we see it from all parts of the world, but also how it is very much at the heart of celebrating belief or worship. And of course, with Dr. Cooper Burnett, in which she said that flowers has no is for and beliefs. So once again, let us continue to celebrate flowers, and we see that flowers simply make us smile and rejoice. So good morning. Good morning. We are about to end the morning session, and we hope to see you again this afternoon for our first session in celebrating heroes, both in endemic flowers and in the arts. So Cha and Gab.
Thank you so much, Dr. Achanzar-Labor. Okay, so wow, what a great start to our week festival, to our week-long festival and conference. So before we end our morning session, we would like to request everyone here today to scan the QR code, which will be flashed right now. Yes, okay. While we're waiting for that, or you can click the link sent at the Zoom chat to access our evaluations form. So please take note that only those who have answered the evaluation form can request for a certificate of attendance. So we will be giving you access to the link right now. So it's there in the Zoom chat. Okay, so now we are really at the end of the morning session. So again, thank you so much to our speakers and to our audience for joining us here today. So we will be having our lunch break until 2:10 p.m. Yeah, 2:10 p.m. But if you can come here earlier, of course, the better. So you can opt to stay in the Zoom room or leave and then come back again later. So please take note again that we will be using the same Zoom room for later session as well. All right, so happy lunch everyone, or happy breakfast, happy dinner, happy snack time wherever you are. Thank you so much for joining.
Thank you so much. Thanks, Dr. Labor, Dr. Rubite. Thanks to the speaker.
Yes, thank you all. Thank you to our speakers, and
also
hats off to our two moderators. Yes, good job, guys.
Thank you to the moderators too.